What is up, my degenerates? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, your man in the chair, your boy Clint. I am coming to you for UFC 291. It's pay-per-view season, baby. We are back. We are right back. We're coming at you. Gloves are on. We're ready to score some more cash here. Speaking of scoring cash, I don't even want to beat around the bush. We're rocking the baby blue shirt. I got the gold money chain out, baby. Not only that, we profited 2 units this last week. Count them, 1, 2 big ones. Had some great calls, had some tough calls, lost a split decision here and there. But you know what that 2 units did for us? It pumped us up over the 50 unit mark for the year, baby. Let's go. We're up 50 units in 2023. Far cry from the day when the haters are talking about fading my picks. Their asses are broke. You're in the chat right now wanting to fade my picks. Where are you at? Where are you at, baby? Come on. What's going on? I am beyond pumped right now. Love you all hanging out in the chat with me today. My guy Nigel Lee. We got VGO Mushroom as always. Dixon Cider 916. Mike Harvey. Oh, here we go. Ethan Harvey. Oh, Ethan. Oh, Ethan calling me out. I lost my Ashmo's bet. I owe the man 2 shots. So not only are we amped up and pumped for the stream, I'm going to have to text the wife and get her to bring me an ice cold bottle of Fireball in here for me because I owe you 2 shots. You are absolutely correct. And I'm not a man who runs from my gambling debts. So we will make sure we get that taken care of. All right. We've already got 50 live viewers here in the chat today. Everyone do me a favor and smash the like button. This is Pub Sports Radio. If you don't know now, you know. I am so excited to break down this card for you guys because not only is it a great card with the BMF title on the line, a spectacular main event, violence all up and down the sheet, it's a special occasion because there's been a man who's come in the chat from time to time. There's been a guy who I've shouted out to you as being one of the sharpest cappers I've ever met. And he is the owner and operator of the Sunday Bailout, which I tweet every single week. If I've had a good night and I've got some extra jingle in my pocket, if I had a bad night and I need to make my money back, I go to the Keg because he destroys NASCAR annually. We've been trying to get together on a pod for 4 years and we've been scheduled 5-6 different times, and it's like God forbid it because every single time we picked a date something would go wrong. We had to cancel, we had to reschedule. No more moving, folks. We're here, we're live, it's happening. Unless his camera disconnects the second before I put him in the chat, it's happening. My guy Jay the Sports Keg, one of my best friends in the gambling space, and as I already said, one of the sharpest minds I've ever seen. Welcome to the show, my guy. How you doing?
We did it. We made it.
It happened.
5 hours ago, I sent you a message and I said, I don't want to jinx anything, but I think this is actually going to happen for the first time in 4 years. We did it, man. I could not be happier to be here. And you know I love you to death. I think you're the nicest guy in the industry. I tell you that probably once a week. And I'm very excited for what you've built. I'm proud of you. And I couldn't be happier to be here.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. There's a very short list of people that I'd call my my mentors or my inspiration, and you are on that list. So I'm super excited. We've talked before. You know, we've had some fight talks and stuff like that before, but it's nice to do it on the podcast finally. It's nice to have you here with the chat, get these people acquainted with you. You guys definitely are going to love my guy Keg here as much as I do. Make sure, first and foremost, follow him on socials. You got it right there at the Sports Keg _. That's him on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck it is now. I don't know what we call it these days. But give him a follow. You're not going to want to miss out on his information and action. We're already up to 82 live viewers, man. First and foremost, I guess let's just paint a picture. How'd you do last week?
It was good. Tom Aspinall set up my whole week, but Sunday was good. 35 units between the week, 7 days. So it was solid. Really, really good. All 1 unit plays. NASCAR's been good to me. MMA I'll be honest, MMA has not been good to me in 2023. I'm probably breaking even on the year, but NASCAR just always gets us in the right spot. Football season's around the corner. So, it was good, man. 35 units.
Absolutely. I love it. And so for the people in the chat, my guy Shane here, shocked at the 35 unit marker. And we saw Coop hanging around in the chat. You love to see it. I got asked a couple different times why I didn't have action on Tom Aspinall. And folks, I made a pile on Tom Aspinall. But what I didn't tell you is that I tailed my guy Keg here. So it was linked up with a whole crap ton of NASCAR plays. I only track my MMA action for you guys. My record for the podcast is purely, specifically, only MMA. And I was like, do I really want to put like another 2-3 unit bet out there and anchor it on Tom? Like, I've already got so much stupid money that people don't know about tied to Tom Aspinall. I just had to like leave it alone. But I did quite well when Tom Aspinall won in round 1, thanks to you. So definitely appreciate the parlay looks.
Yeah. I'm glad I could help you out. You help me out all the time. Yeah, man. Tom Aspinall. If it would have went the wrong way, it could have been a horrific week. But Tom Aspinall did what we thought he would do last week. So
he got it done in dramatic fashion, man. You love to see it. Everyone talking about him being fragile, the whole knee busting out, stuff like that. I was just praying that nothing like that happened. I was happy to see him score the knockout the way he should have. It wasn't even close. Like, no holding your breath, no worries, no concerns. Got him out of there in like a minute.
Yeah, it must have been a special moment for him too, especially going back to the place where your MMA career got derailed for like a year. So yeah, I was happy to see Tom get back on the horse.
That makes two of us, man. It's good to have him back. It's good to have some people calling out John Jones, even though I know he's going to run for the hills far before Tom ever gets close to a title shot. But, still happy to see it. All right. First off, matter of business. I owe my guy 2 shots of Fireball because Ash.
Nice.
Now, I do want to preface this. My guy broke his arm, okay? Like, I know he was losing round 1, but there's nothing in MMA that we have learned more than fights aren't over until that final bell. So, like, I know a lot of people were counting my guy Ash Mose out. We had 2 more rounds. If he had a healthy arm, I think that fight ends differently. Regardless, I owe you 2. Here we go.
Nice.
We're just going to get them both.
Get loosened up, my guy. Let's go.
Get them both right out of the way here. Cheers, everybody. Woo! I don't usually do them back-to-back that fast. All right, I'm going to pick up all these fucking dollar bills that are all over my house now. All right, everybody, welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast on Pub Sports Radio. We're going to get into the breakdowns. UFC 291, 99 live viewers. Hit the like button for me. And in keeping with rolling out the red carpet for my guy Keg, we got the sexy tiles back for this week. We've got Matt Semelsberger. He's taking on Uros Medic. And this is already a spot that I'm just kind of raising my eyebrow at, Keg. I know, okay, Alaska FC. You just don't need to say much more than that. These fighters that come out of Alaska FC, they're a level below. They're not UFC caliber. I know Jose Aldo once upon a time had like a fight in Alaska FC. I don't think he counts. Jared Cannonier is really like the guy. If there's ever been anybody good that came out of Alaska FC, it's our guy Jared Cannonier. Uros Medic has got some serious questions about him, but he's big, he's athletic, and the thing that is UFC caliber is his offense. I don't know that his defense or his chin are, but this guy can hit. Hits like an absolute truck. 3-1 in the UFC. The only loss to Jalen Turner, which in my book, that's not that bad. I can forgive people for losing to Jalen Turner. And in fact, his last fight was very impressive over Omar Morales. I know Omar Morales is not what he used to be, right? But he still got out there and defeated him in stunning fashion. I mean, just absolutely pieced him apart, answered all the questions of what happens if he goes into round 2. It took him until the 3rd minute of the 2nd round to find his way to that knockout. So I think he answered some of those cardio questions that people have kind of been bugging him about up until this point. I don't mind Uros Medic in general. I'm a little scared of the Alaska FC thing, but he's one that I've kind of got my eye on here. Now, Matt Semelsberger, I'll be honest with you, Keg, I can't get this guy right. I cannot figure out Semi the Jedi to save my life. He's 11-5, coming off that split loss to Wells, which I feel like, frankly, probably could have gone either way. Like, I don't want to knock him for losing a split decision to a wrestler like Wells, who's made out of steel. You can't hurt the guy. He had him rocked early in that first round, and then Wells battled his way back into the fight, took him down, and that's kind of been the path to victory for Matt Semelsberger, right? Like, he can't stop a takedown. He kind of turtles up on his back. He doesn't have the right urgency or moves to get back up to his feet. We've seen him a little bit exposed with that get-up game. His wins are over guys like Jake Matthews, AJ Fletcher, Martin Sano, and Matthews is kind of the only guy in there that's even respectable. I mean, he one-punched Jason Witt. He's fought a very low level of competition. Lost to Wells, Morono, and Chaos Williams. And I just see everybody piling in on Matt Semelsberger this week. He is drastically jumping up here. He's minus 210 now. And you've got plus 175 on Uros Medic. This is going to be a striking battle, man. And I know Uros doesn't react the greatest when he gets hit. We've seen him have some tough reactions, especially to power shots from like Jalen Turner. But I think the Omar Morales fight was a really good sign for him, turning some corners and showing us some things. I'm not convinced on Semelsberger. I'm not convinced he's going to be a guy that shoots to the top of the division. He's probably going to hang around and float in the middle for a long time. I don't like him here at minus 210. If you got in early and you got minus 130, minus 140, something like that on Matt Semelsberger, I don't even know where it opened. I think it was minus 145 or something like that. I don't blame you for taking that shot, but no way in hell am I laying minus 210. It would be dog or pass, and I'd have to bite the bullet on Uros at this point for me. What do you make of this fight, man? What do you think?
Well, the first thing that stuck out to me is the fact that he's taking the fight on short notice, right? So he's not fighting at 155 like he normally does. He goes up to 170, right? Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry. I lost my earbud there for a second. Repeat, please.
Yeah, so he's a natural 155er, right? But he's taking the step up to 170.
Yes, but he's a big 155er, man. I mean, he didn't look that undersized in comparison to Jalen Turner, who's massive for this weight class. So I'm not sure that's a gigantic knock against him, frankly.
No, yeah, I mean, you could be right. I just think it's that elevation, right? And
yes.
like
that is a good note for this whole show.
Correct. We've never seen him in the second half of a fight throughout his entire career. Never, right? So you have no idea if he has the necessary cardio to go a fast 15 with somebody like Semelsberger, who for the most part, cardio holds up pretty well, right? So I think right off the bat, that's a tough ask for me to back somebody with those parameters. And that's a big part of the reason I think why we've seen a 50-cent line move since open. But I do like his striking. I think his striking is clean from range and in the pocket. I'd like to see him come into the pocket at better angles more often. But all in all, I think that he's a very good striker that throws a ton of volume, at least in his first 4 fights for the promotion. So now I am a big Matt Semelsberger guy. I'm not going to lie to you. I backed him in most of his fights in the UFC. It's been profitable for me so far because, we know that he can go 15. We know that he's got crazy power in his hands. And while we have not seen it a ton, he does have the ability to wrestle. So I kind of think that the fight sets up well for Semelsberger, especially if he could prolong the fight. Because I think the longer that the fight goes, considering the fact that we haven't really seen Medic go far, I think that his win equity increases. So, I think if you're a big fan of MMA, especially betting MMA, like you just mentioned, then you watch a lot of regional tape, including Alaska FC. And we saw multiple fighters take Medic down when he fought for that promotion. So I don't think it would shock me in the least if his back was against the mat for a bit here. So, I think it's meme KO or bust. for me
Okay.
on Medic this week. Semelsberger, I think he could win fights multiple ways, and we have no idea if Medic has the cardio for 10 minutes, never mind 15, right? We've never seen him go a full 10. So I didn't bet the opener, though, because I wanted to see when exactly the method of victory props on Semelsberger would be. They're not out yet in the legal market, but there's a good chance that I'm going to be on him in some type of way this weekend, whether it's by finish, maybe the under 1.5. I'm not sure, but yeah, I favor his side for sure.
Okay. I'm kind of with my guy Mike here in the chat. Medic is either going to look incredible or like a can. And I think that's the problem that I'm having here is you're paying that price up front that he's a can right now. And I'm not sure that's true. So for me, I think I'm just watching this fight, Keg. I think if anything, maybe bet an under. Because if Medic wins, it's going to be around 1 or early.
I don't disagree. Yep.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, I like violence in the first fight. I'm going to say it's dog or pass from a money line perspective. People that got in early on Semi the Jedi, you guys are the ones that did your job well. Careful, folks. Hey, last week I warned you, do not parlay Molly McCann. And some of y'all went out there and did it anyway. Please don't parlay Matt Semelsberger. Like, he's not a parlay piece at -210. Be careful. Medic is a guy that's a bit of a loose cannon. He could throw a curveball here and ruin your night in the first fight of the evening here. I like violence. Real quick, got a shout out. Sherpa 210 Poker says, I've been waiting to catch you live. Give me a shout out and I'll throw you a 5-unit free roll. First off, you get the fist bump. I'm not sure what that means, but you got your shout out, Sherpa. Thank you very much for catching the show live. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for supporting and watching the show. Curious about that 5-unit free roll. I want, hit me up about that. Next fight we're going to talk about here is Miranda Maverick taking on my girl, Priscila Cachoeira. I couldn't find a good picture of her with the blue hair. I always love when she does the blue streak down on one side of her head. Keg, I'm going to make this super simple for you guys. This is a fight that's at elevation where Miranda Maverick has been training versus a 34-year-old who only has a right hand and has struggled historically with grapplers. I know everyone is terrified of Miranda Maverick shitting the bed in her last fight because Jazz Judavicius is a bum and everyone lost money parlaying Miranda Maverick against Jazz. I warned you guys that Jazz was a bigger version of Miranda and she might be able to pull off a win in that fight. Shout out my guy James Lynch. He did an interview with Miranda Maverick, and she talked about how apparently when she got poked in the eye early in that fight, she never even got her vision back. So, like, I take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure that, stuff and takedowns has too much to do with one eye, but she was definitely not comfortable in that fight the way she normally would have been, and that will affect a fighter over the course of a 15-minute fight. Regardless, this is a tailor-made matchup for my girl Miranda Maverick to get back on track, Keg. She is the free square. I'll say it. She is the free square of the week. I don't use the L word. There's no such thing as a lock in MMA, but she's the free square this week. She's going to be able to time the overhand right of Michel Pereira. Jeez, I'm jumping way down the card. She's going to be able to time that right hand of Priscila Cachoeira. We saw Jillian Robertson time the right hand of Priscila Cachoeira. And let me tell you, Miranda Maverick is 10 times the wrestler that Jillian Robertson is. She hunts the back well. She gets her hooks in. She's got better ground and pound. It's just a matter of time before she finds the takedown here. And I think very similar to Jillian, she only needs one. She's going to get on the back. She's going to find an arm triangle, and she's going to tap this girl out, man, especially with it being at elevation. Priscila Cachoeira has relied on women who gas out and slow down. I made so much money, Keg. I put a huge bet on Priscila Cachoeira, and people called me crazy, against Gina Mazzani because Gina Mazzani has 6 minutes of gas. I knew as soon as she died off, the power was going to take over in that fight. Let's look at the wins. Like, everyone's talking about this 4-1 run that Priscila Cachoeira is on at 41 years old. Shayna Dobson, chinny and not great. She one-punched her. Gina Mazzani, gassed out. She's now cut from the organization. She got tapped by Jillian in round 1. And then she went to war with Ji-Yeon Kim, where she got outstruck by 50 significant strikes and still somehow managed to win a decision, which I frankly think was the wrong decision, Keg. And then she one-punched Ariane Lipski, who had an all-time bad fight IQ moment where she bit down on the mouthpiece and started trading hooks with Priscila Cachoeira. Lipski does not have a good chin. She's got a great offensive game, but she does not have a good chin. That was a terrible decision. Miranda Maverick is going to wipe the floor with Priscila Cachoeira on Saturday. I've got her parlayed up already, and I've also made her my bet openly spot this week, where if you guys want to take the stab on Priscila Cachoeira, I'm offering you better odds on bet openly than you'll get anywhere else. Come take my action, because she's going to absolutely demolish her. I need to make sure that you're agreeing with me here, because I won't hear it otherwise.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I went to check today, actually, to see how much the line had moved since they announced the fight. And I was surprised to see that it's only moved about 10 cents. That surprised me a little bit. I've always liked Miranda Maverick. Now, I think that her recent record is slightly worse than it should be when you look at the last 5 fights, because we know that she beat Macy Barber and got robbed at a UFC fight night. And then she took on the future champ in this division, in my opinion anyway, in Erin Blanchfield. So I think it's safe to say that her recent run isn't really a fair representation of where she's at right now. Although I will say that I was very surprised that she lost to Jasmine in her last fight.
Keg, you gotta forgive me. You gotta forgive me. Stop the presses. Sherpa not only kept his word about the 5-unit free roll, but he donated here in the Pub Sports Radio chat. We've got a $500 donation, which, unless I'm mistaken, might be the record for the biggest dono in the show's history. Sherpa, my guy, thank you very much for the donation. That is going to go right here on Pub Sports Radio and keep the free content coming to you guys. We appreciate the absolute crap out of you. Thank you so much. That's incredible. Really appreciate you. I'm sorry, Keg. I won't cut you off much. That one I think was worth it.
Yeah. No worries at all. And I'm with you for a point that you made earlier, that like I see a lot of people are like it's a mid-career resurgence for Priscila Cachoeira. And like, yeah, is she coming into the fight winning 4 out of the last 5? Yes. But like you said, Mazzani, Dustin, Kim, Lipski, with her only loss coming to our girl, Jillian Robertson. And, we know what this fight will be in the cage on Saturday night. It's going to be a grappler versus a striker. And like you said, she doesn't have much more than a right hand. Normally, I tend to back the fighter that can control where the fight takes place, rather than a zombie that walks forward more times than not, right? Especially one that has 0 defensive striking ability. And that's exactly what we see in this fight, right? I think that Cachoeira is like a female fighter that's basically a throwback to like Robbie Lawler. She doesn't have much defensive striking at all, right? She'll gladly take a couple from somebody to land one. And historically, that doesn't work out for women in general, but it's helped her lately. My main issue with her striking is her chin is in the air constantly, and she doesn't throw a ton of volume for a female fighter. Is that going to matter against Maverick? No. I think her footwork probably needs work too, but I think she's got power. She definitely has the equalizer when she could land it. But at the end of the day, I think that Maverick's an underrated striker. I think she throws more volume than Cachoeira. And considering the fact that Priscilla's got a sub 65% takedown defense and an even worse defense off her back when she actually gets taken down, it's hard to find a way to back Cachoeira unless you take a flyer on her KO prop. But, in women's MMA, can anything happen? Yeah. But I fail to see how she wins a decision here. So I would think she's KO or bust. And I'm with you, man. I'll be looking to back Miranda Maverick in the props market. maybe like Maverick -3.5, depending on what that line is. Because don't you think that she's got finish equity late? She could sub her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think it's going to be a tough week. Like, do you take Maverick by decision or by submission? The -3.5 might be the safer play if they line it at least appropriate. So that's probably where I'll be looking.
Man, I still have yet to bet a spread in MMA. It's just not a thing that I do. This might be the first one. That's a great point because the spread cashes if she finishes. And if she wins, I believe, a unanimous decision, then she cashes the -3.5. I still am not sure about how the 3.5 scoring thing works with the judges.
Yeah, like if 3 judges score at 29-28, that would be 3. So you wouldn't cover the 3.5. So you need 1 judge to give all 3 rounds.
Okay, so just 1 judge to give unanimous. And frankly, I think that's not only possible, but likely. So I think the -3.5 makes a ton of sense on Miranda Maverick. And then I think she's got late finishing equity. Absolutely. We've seen Jillian Robertson get this girl's back, and she has no idea how to defend a rear naked choke. In fact, her defense is eye gouging. So if you guys don't know, not only is Miranda Maverick training at Elevation Fight Team, she shipped off to the Goat Shed to get work with my girl Jillian for this fight camp. So she's going to be ready and prepared with that same style game plan. ID finishes this fight, frankly. So I think the -3.5 makes a ton of sense. I wouldn't be shocked if she does like a crucifix TKO. You really don't knock out Priscila Cachoeira. She's a tough piece of Brazilian steak. So she's not going to go down easily. It's going to have to be like a referee stoppage. But I do think that, yeah, I think she finishes. And just Sherpa, for you, for the glorious tip, I'm going to do an extra shot. By the way, folks, I'm still on an empty stomach. I didn't eat anything for dinner after work. So 3 shots is probably going to be enough to make this stream a little weird. Good luck, Keg. All right. Now, my guy, real quick, my guy Ethan in the chat with just the most glorious profile picture of all time. He beat me this week on Yanel Lashos. He offered to go again, 2 shots next week for Miranda versus Cachoeira. I got to take it. You're giving me a chance to get right here. I got to take it. So, Ethan, you got it. 2 shots on Monday. If Priscila pulls the upset, you got to change that profile picture to none other than Miranda Maverick herself if she pulls off the victory. I love the opportunity to get right. Appreciate it, my guy. Let's have some fun. All right. Next up on the docket here, we got Jake Matthews taking on Darius Flowers. Flowers coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. A short notice fill in here to take on Jake Matthews. Matthews, a big -300 favorite. Keg. Jake Matthews is a guy that I don't think the market knows what to do with. He's had such a weird up and down trajectory here. And I do got to apologize, Keg. I loaded these up last night. And I went off Tapology, so I know we're like out of order here. So I apologize for fucking with you on the fight order here. But Jake Matthews, he comes out and kind of gets worked by Sean Brady, right? Like we've seen, the big thing with Jake Matthews is he doesn't really defend takedowns all that well. He's willing to play off his back. He trusts his BJJ. He's not a spectacular wrestler, even though he's a very good grappler. So he can end up losing time on bottom. He's got sharp, crisp boxing. I love the hands on this kid. And he's very young. He's still only 28 years old. He's another one of these guys that I look at and like, he's got to be 32 at this point. Matthews is not even in his athletic prime yet. He's had a lot of time in front of us. We've seen him in the octagon for years at this point, and he's not even 30. So we don't know necessarily that we've seen his ceiling, but he continuously makes some of those kid-style mistakes, I feel like. Even the Matt Semelsberger fight. I was on him on Fiallo. I called the KO. I called the round 2. Like, we could not have got that fight cleaner, Keg. I made a pile when Jake Matthews knocked out Andre Fiallo in 2022. And everyone was on him against Semelsberger. Like, it was such recency bias. They're like, oh, Jake Matthews, he turned. I passed on that fight because I was like, Jake should win this fight. He really should. But he didn't. He let it slide. He let it slip. And we've seen that from Matthews time and time and time again. He just can't quite put it all together for a run. He can't quite get over that hump. And you look at some of the names that he's beaten, like the Leech Jing Liang is really the only name he's got on there, man. Bohan Velik, who was back in 2017, cut. Shinzo Anzai, cut. 2018. Rostam Akman, cut. Emil Weber-Meek, cut. Diego Sanchez, cut. Like, Fialho is the only guy that this man has beaten who's still on the UFC roster, and I'm not sure he's even going to be on the roster all that much longer. I think we might have tapped the early ceiling of Jake Matthews. It scares me to say that because I said that once before, and I looked like a complete fool the next time Song Yadong came out and showed us he was a top 5 fighter. I claimed the fight before that we might have seen his ceiling. So I'm a little cautious to pull that card again here. But I'm worried. I'm worried about Jake Matthews. I feel like he should have developed a little bit more by now. Darius Flowers, I'm not super high on. I'm not super excited about this guy. But Keg, you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
This guy reminds me of Jared Cannonier. He's short, he's stocky, he's built. He was a little overweight, but he was fighting up a weight class. Now he's finally moving down to what should be his true weight class at this point. He hits like a truck. Like, I know he doesn't have the UFC caliber experience yet at this point, but Flowers is 12-5-1, and he's taken this short notice opportunity up against the guy who we have seen let fights slip away. He fought in LFA. He was at 185 then. Now he's back down to 170, and he's powerful. He can make some sloppy mistakes when he does, when he grapples, back takes, things like that. I've seen him go for really bad arm bars and give up positions and slip off even when he shouldn't. That worries me a little bit that he can make those kinds of errors, but his wrestling game is intact. He's got a big blast double, and he's just physically strong. When you get these short, compact guys on top of you, they just kind of sit on your chest. You're not going anywhere. I could see Darius Flowers upsetting the apple cart this week. I'm not betting him at this point, but I can't lay anywhere near minus 300 on Jake Matthews, quite frankly. What do you think, Keg?
So the biggest issue for me, what stuck out to me first, as far as Flowers is concerned, is we know him pretty well from LFA and King of the Cage. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember one instance in watching him fight where I said to myself, wow, that's an impressive cardio performance by Darius Flowers, because I don't think that there's been one, really. I don't really think that it exists. So my red flag goes up right there from Jump Street when I hear him coming into a fight on short notice. And not only short notice, but short notice out at elevation. So that screams a problem for me immediately. So we know that Flowers will only be Flowers, I think, for probably a round and maybe the first minute off the stool in round 2. But like you just mentioned, he is extremely dangerous in that first round because he has CTE ability in his hands, at least for a round. And that will make the first round of the fight very interesting, because while Matthews has only been stopped one time by KO, he's been hurt badly multiple times in his career. Actually, he was hurt badly multiple times against Semelsberger, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So, I mean, that chin is starting to crack a bit for Matthews, I think, which makes him have to be very careful early in the fight. Now, I would have thought that we would have seen more line movement than we have, but the line looks like it opened minus 185. It sits at minus 175 at MGM right now. So not a ton of movement there. If Matthews makes Flowers work hard early and actually come out the other side fresh and okay, it should be Jake's fight to win in the last 2 rounds of this fight, in my opinion. But that first round is going to be a dangerous one, no doubt. So I think that Matthews has fought what you brought up a good point. Like, have we seen the ceiling? He's fought the majority of his career on this level, which is impressive. Just to say that, I do like him in general. He can be versatile in the cage because he can control a fight on the ground when, obviously, we know that when he needs to. Is he the best striker that we've seen? I don't know, but I think that his boxing's clean, just like you. My biggest pet peeve with him is his volume. He does not throw volume, and it's very annoying sometimes to have your money on him and just watch him not throw. What's he land? 3.2 significant strikes per 15. I mean, per minute. That worries me in general in a Jake Matthews fight. But Matthews, you know, he makes it work for him because he wins the majority of his fights. But my question for you is, do you think that the books move the line if Flowers wins round 1, but Matthews looks relatively fresh? Because if they do, then I would wait to bet Jake Matthews probably around even money going into the second round, because I just think his win equity increases exponentially after 5 minutes. What do you think they do? Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the books are sharp. I do a live betting show every Saturday. I make my living betting. That's all I do for a living. And sometimes they're hip to it. Sometimes they're not, and they're clueless. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I feel like these big, gigantic favorites, they really don't move the line a lot. So if it's like a close competitive round 1, but he probably lost it, that number's not going anywhere. Flowers would have to beat him within an inch of his life. It would have to be like Flowers damn near TKO'd him in the first round for him to have a chance at that line coming down. So I'm not sure. You really would have to have a convincing round 1 win to get much better line. You might get like minus 250 or something, but I doubt it comes down a whole lot.
Yeah, my problem is, like, I lean Matthews for sure. I couldn't lay the money line like with you. But that said, man, if he's anything close to minus 160 going into round 2, I think you're in a very good spot to make money live.
Great call. Great call. Because on top of that, we mentioned it at the top of the show, folks. We're coming back around. This is at elevation. So guys that are coming in here on short notice, guys that tend to make mistakes, if they end up on bottom, those are the ones who you want to bet against, because there's a chance that even if Jake Matthews gets hurt in round 1, if he digs deep and he survives, the short notice guy is probably going to be the one getting tired. The short notice guy is probably going to be the one slipping off of his back. So I completely agree with you, Keg. I think you look round 1 KO with Flowers, if nothing else, if you're looking for that long shot, Hail Mary, take home spot. But if he doesn't get that round 1 KO, Matthews does probably take over this fight. And again, maybe some late finishing equity. You know, we've seen Matthews when he gets on top, his BJJ game is really solid, and he might just strike his way to a decision. So I could see this thing going over. I could see it going late. Another one where the live bet I think makes the most sense, but you could even consider the spread possibly.
Yeah, I'm with you totally, completely.
I like it. All right. Real quick, though, MMA Jedi in the chat. Got to shout it out, man. Hey, we only have 2 rules on this show. No racism, sexism, hate speech of any kind, and no spamming. So I don't know if you're just making a joke or whatever, but like, we don't do that here. You get blocked if you do that here. So you want to get your comment out there, put it in once or twice, but if nobody responds to it, if you keep shoveling it in, that's a lifetime ban from the channel. So just a heads up. James, I love you too. And what we have, let's see, where I missed it. My guy, I love Clinty baby in the house. That's what's up. It's been a couple of weeks. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. And Real Deal Prime rocking in with the classic wrestling rules. He always sides with the wrestlers, and he says vote Trump. I don't know about that, but you know, whatever you want. We don't do politics here either. I guess that's rule number 3.
Unless we're betting on them.
Exactly. Next up, CJ Vergara takes on Vinicius Salvador. We've got Vergara minus 155 taking on the underdog plus 135 to come back on Vinicius Salvador. And I do have action here, Keg. I've already made a bet on this spot. I actually got a better number on Vinicius Salvador. I took him at plus 140, I believe. I have bet on Carlos Vergara, my guy. He's a local guy. He's from Phoenix. He's carrying the flag right now for Phoenix Mixed Martial Arts since Bader left the UFC. I like him. I like him a lot, but he's 32 years old. And you know what? He ran so that Chelsea Chandler could walk. Like he sprinted in his last fight, man.
I have a note like ready to break your balls about that. Like literally. Yeah.
Now, here's the only thing. I got to spin it real quick here for you because I told you guys CJ Vergara will do whatever it takes to gas that man out. Like, he knew the assignment, Keg. He got hurt in round 1, taking on Daniel Lacerda, a guy who has 4 minutes worth of gas, and he said, I'm going to make him do sprints. And he just booked it around the cage. By the time Lacerda caught him, he had nothing left to give. The man was completely done. CJ pounds him out in the second round because he is helpless when he runs out of gas. CJ Vergara's fight IQ shown off in spades that night. So I love the way he thinks. He absolutely will take whatever advantage he's got, but he's small for the weight class. He's going to be at a height and reach disadvantage here in this spot. And I would love to say the guy can wrestle, but frankly, he doesn't even shoot takedowns. Keg, he's got a 0% takedown average in the UFC. He's never fought one. He's never shot a single takedown.
And
like,
he's not
he can grapple.
He's not a terrible grappler either, you know?
He's a good grappler. That's the thing. Like, I keep talking about how he can wrestle, he can grapple, but he doesn't shoot takedowns. Like, he just simply does not go to the ground unless you're the one taking him there. So I don't think we can count on him trying to gas out Salvador by shooting on the legs, because we have yet to see him do it. And he's actually had like a 4-fight UFC run at this point. That's pretty impressive not to shoot a single takedown over 4 UFC fights. But he's at a height disadvantage. He's at a reach disadvantage. He's 32 years old. I think we have the completed version of CJ Vergara at this point. And Vinicius Salvador is a young, hungry beast. Like, I have to apologize for his haircut, but apparently that's like some Brazilian soccer legend that cuts his hair that way. So, like, is it a bad haircut and Uncle Weezy should be called on him? Yes. But, like, at the same time, there's this guy that's really fucking good that cuts his hair that way. So, like, maybe give him a pass. But the kid's 27 years old.
No. There is no pass for a mustache on the top of your head. There's no pass for that at all. No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
All right. Ruling has been given live on the show. No pass for the haircut. That's fair. That's fair enough. But I mean, kid's got 13 wins by KO. He's got crazy power. He throws these big looping punches. He's got the knees up the middle when people try to change levels on him. Okay, I like everything of this kid's game, and he's got a long way to go. He's not there yet, but he's working on it. I think he's going to be a bit of a problem. He's tough. He's gritty. People worry about the elevation in the gas tank. I get that. But I also think that CJ is going to have a hard time closing range on this guy. Like, CJ likes to leg kick his way in and then get into boxing range. And that's where he does his best work, is in boxing range. He's got a hard jab on him. He's got some decent boxing. He rolls well with punches. But he's going to be at, like, big body kicking range and hook range against this guy. And I don't think Salvador is going to chase him for 5 minutes in this fight. So I actually think he can keep a measured pace and turn a bit of a corner here, because he survived a fight with Victor Altamirano in his last fight, who's a cardio god, and he went all 15 minutes. So if nothing else, I think he can make it 15, and I think he can win 2 of those 3 rounds. I got the dog on this one, man.
All right. Well, the first thing that stuck out to me here was there's a pretty big disparity in who these guys have fought in their last 5 fights, and it's not even close. Like, I think CJ has had a much harder path lately than Salvador, right? I think the fight should play out on the feet. Obviously, you would think, like you just mentioned, Vergara, no takedowns thus far in the UFC. Salvador has 1, but if he had his choice, he'd rather also keep it on the feet. We know that. I haven't been uber impressed with either of these guys, if I'm being honest with you. Salvador was good to me during his fight in the Contender Series, where we were able to get on him live because he closed a pretty big dog. But I haven't seen a ton that impresses me with Salvador, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't like the back fighters that I know will be wild and off the cuff, because it increases the volatility in an already incredibly volatile sport. And that is Salvador to me in a nutshell. He crashes the pocket with each hand down constantly, so much so that, like, he didn't raise his hands to his head in almost every single exchange against Victor Altamirano in his last fight. Plus, it's also hard to back a guy. Well, we went through the mustache thing already, so I won't go back to that. But when I watch him strike, right, he looks like he has the striking of a drunk guy who you might fight at a bar. Like you said, it's these big looping punches, and I think that was a big part of the reason that he got pieced up by Victor Altamirano, who is much more cerebral and I think composed than what is presented to him. But I just think that the guy literally did a back leg soccer kick to the opposite calf of Altamirano. Like, he feels slightly to me, Clint, like early Michel Pereira, like just like freestyle flowy, where you're going to probably see some crazy shit, right? No defense at all, which makes like a lot of his punches ineffective. I don't know. I just think that I'm with you. One thing I didn't think about is that CJ Vergara is like 2 inches taller than a little person. I didn't really think about the length and the reach advantage that he will have in the fight. I'm probably not going to get involved in this fight, so I will probably be rooting for your bet in this fight. That said, would I back either guy? Probably not. This fight's probably going to be a pass for me.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate you at least rooting for me. That'll work. I'll take it. And I think I just think CJ's topped out. If we see any improvement whatsoever at all from my guy Salvador, I think he can do enough to get this fight. Couple comments here in the chat. We've got Donathan saying that Keg's spitting that heat. He's appreciating the recap. And Matt in the house saying my 2 favorite guys, NASCAR and MMA. Let's go. Pepe Silva in the house. What's up, my friend? He likes CJ here, so a little head-to-head. No problem there. It happens. Nothing but respect here, Pepe. I will say that, again, at elevation against a bigger guy, you might get a better live entry here. If you do like CJ Vergara, I can't stomach him being too much of a favorite. But like, if Salvador has a great first round, but CJ survives it, we've seen him punch his way back into fights from that position before. So I don't mind a live look here. I will say that much. I don't mind. I might, hit the parachute if that happens myself. But we've also got On the Line podcast. Now, the problem is this is the handle. This is either my guy Tommy or my guy Ant, one or the other. But I'm going to be doing the On the Line podcast a little bit later this week, guys. So make sure you check them out. Real fun format. They do things a bit differently, but we'll be talking more fights over there on that show. So make sure you check them out as well. All right. Here we go. We're talking Roman Kopylov taking on Claudio Ribeiro next up, Keg. Roman Kopylov is a solid favorite here in this spot. Now, when I made the cards, he was minus 230. He is currently minus 260, plus 210, the comeback on Claudio Ribeiro. And I was one of the few people who was there and ready for when Kopylov turned that corner, Keg. He's 10-2, and he's turned into a decent little MMA fighter. He's a solid kickboxer. He's got lots of experience outside the MMA cage, and it was a matter of transitioning it over. He was so easy to pick at plus 290 against Albert Duraev. And that was the spot that everyone counted him out. That was the spot where everyone left him for dead. And he lost that fight. It was close. It was competitive. It was okay, but he was dead man walking. His next 2 fights, Alessio Di Chirico, Punahele, he destroyed those men. He absolutely wrecked Punahele Soriano, destroyed him to the body, and then pieced him apart until he finally shut down. And Puna is a guy that people, I feel, overrate in the UFC just a little bit. But the one thing he is tough. To finish a guy like Puna is actually a big-time feather in your cap, in my opinion. Not that many actually put him down. And that's something that Roman Kopylov did. His level of competition, a little questionable. Like I said, Soriano, overrated. Alessio Di Chirico, cut. Duraev, overrated. Roberson, cut. So, he's turned out okay, but he's still kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here just a little bit. Claudio Ribeiro comes off Dana White's Contender Series. He's 11-3, and he is a explosive explosive, high caliber striker in this spot, man. The leg kicks. Keg, it's like someone wound up with a baseball bat. The way this guy sells out and puts everything into those leg kicks. He's got 7 round 1 finishes. He's not the most technical striker, but he's one of these guys where the athleticism and the power makes up for those holes in the technique. If he catches you, you're in trouble. It's almost like a Dreykus situation where it's just some people are not going to get around the physicality. His ground and pound is filthy, but everything he throws is big and looping. He's flat-footed. He just kind of plods his way at his opponents. I think this is a spot where Kopylov pieces this guy up with a jab. He's taller. He's longer. I'm sorry. Claudio Ribeiro will actually have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got the gorilla arms thing going on, but those big looping punches aren't going to land when Kopylov pops him in the mouth with a stiff jab. I think as long as Roman Kopylov keeps to a tight game plan in this spot, he kind of picks this guy apart for 15 minutes and wins a decision. I don't really like the money line, but I'm going to pick Roman Kopylov to get the win.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm a big Roman guy, actually, in general. I think when you consider how far that he's come from the way he looked in his debut against Roberson to the fighter that we just saw against Soriano, you can tell that he is continuing to evolve even in his early 30s. I just think he's a hard fighter to get to the ground. So he dictates where he wants the fight to take place. And for the most part, that's always going to be on the feet, right? He's shown a great chin, especially in the Soriano fight. I don't really love his footwork because he seems a little too flat-footed, especially on pocket entry, which, I think is something that he needs to work on. But in saying that, I think he has a good sense on how to fight at range. He almost always prioritizes defense on the feet first, which I like because that usually means if he's the better striker, it takes some of the volatility out of you backing him. I think what you mentioned his jab. I think that he destroyed Soriano with that jab. He pops a nice jab. He throws solid combinations. He attacks the body, which is a lost art form in MMA because most guys just headhunt. He fakes very well, and he can crack. I like everything about him. Ribeiro, I mean, I don't know, man. He's got power, definitely, but all you have to do is go to his topology to see 11 wins by KO to see that the guy's got power, right? I also think that he has a decent wrestling and top control if he can get the fight there. But if you make him work for those takedowns, if you stop those takedown attempts and he can't knock you out on the feet in round 1, I think it starts a sliding scale where the deeper he goes into the fight, the more win equity that he loses. So when you combine all that, I think that the fight sets up really well for Roman because he tends to come out slower, more methodical, right? And prioritize his defense, which will help him weather an early barrage, I think, from Ribeiro. And it's hard to get him to the ground. So I'm with you. It's a big money line. It's a big money line that you have to lay. I didn't lay it. I'll be looking for the prop market once we get them on Tuesday. That's usually when they drop, I think, in the legal market. But I'm with you. It's Roman or pass for me, and it probably won't be pass. I think I'll find someone on him.
I like that. It's Roman or pass, and it probably won't be pass. I like that. Yeah, man. I like Roman. And look at me talking about spreads in MMA. I think this is maybe another good spread spot because he should win a unanimous decision in this spot. He should be able to piece this guy up with his jab and likely finishes late because if anyone's going to gas out, it's the guy that was slowing down, trying to wrestle in his last fight against an absolute bum in Joseph Holmes. The guy came into the UFC Keg with the nickname The Ugly Man. You knew he was not going to last more than 3-4 fights. Come on now. This guy has been one punch KO'd by Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Not that that's a knock. because Abdulrazak has got some serious power. But I actually thought Holmes was a cleaner striker than this guy was. Like, he came out, tried to wrestle with Holmes, and got tired. I think Kopylov destroys him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It's like, I don't see Ribeiro's KO or bust, right? I mean,
He really is.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
He really is. And Mike Harvey definitely disagrees with us here in this spot. And don't get me wrong, Mike, I understand he's got the crazy leg kicks. I know he hits hard. I'm totally fine and good with that. But you know what the counter to a leg kick is when you throw it naked? It's a jab right down the line. And that's what Roman Kopylov does without thinking about it. Jabs are like breathing for this kid. So I think he's going to have no problem countering those leg kicks. And we've also seen Roman Kopylov really sport a damn good chin. He's been submitted once, and he lost a decision once. He took a beating from Duraev and never got out of there. Like, I think he's tough enough to hang in there against Claudio Ribeiro. He's got to get sparked. Like, absolutely one-punched, out cold. Yeah. Otherwise, he's not going anywhere.
I mean, Soriano hit him with a few bombs, and he didn't even budge. Yeah.
Didn't phase him whatsoever. I like him here. I'm with you. I am with you. And guys, real quick, I've just got to go back to this real quick here because my guy Sherpa, so he did the $500 dono here on Pub Sports Radio, and my phone just dinged at me. He sent me a little something on the side. He was like, just in case Pub Sports Radio keeps it all, here's some for you. So he has donated now twice, live on the channel for Pub, and then to me personally. So like, Sherpa, my guy, you're going to absolutely drive my wife nuts. I owe you a shot for that in thanks, because I can't do much else besides say thank you. And people love when I drink live on the show. So I will go ahead and just do another shot in your honor. Thank you so much, my friend. It means the absolute world to me to get your support that way.
I made my audience 35 units this weekend, and I can't even get a 12-pack of beer. So that's very nice of him. God
absolute scrubs over there, Keg. Absolute scrubs. I owe you dinner. You've made me so much money on NASCAR. Like, if you ever get your butt out to Arizona, I'm taking you out for a steak.
Yeah, we definitely will do dinner if I ever leave New Jersey, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, everybody, we've got Trevin Giles taking on Gabriel Bonfim. This one sets up so beautifully for me, Keg. It's so perfect. All of my biases in one spot. I hate Trevin Giles. I do everything I can to fade Trevin Giles. Now, it's not that I hate him on a personal level. You know, the dude was a former officer. Like, you love everything he does for the community, all that kind of stuff. No problem with Trevin Giles on a personal level, but I just think he's overrated. He's another, now this is going to sound really stupid. I don't mean it the way you're going to take it. He's a Conor McGregor archetype where he's not the same guy after he gets tired. He doesn't have the level of Conor when he's fresh in the first place. Let me make that exceptionally clear. But you know how they just fall off a cliff? Like, Conor round 3 is like dead man walking these days. That's how I think of Trevin Giles. If he gets tired, he gets finished. And that's just the end of the story. Not only that, he's got a 100% finish loss rate. He has yet to lose a decision because he's either in control or he's so sloppy when he's not in control, he gives up the finish loss. And he's taking on the A-side Bonfim brother. Now, I know a lot of people lost a lot of money when Ismael Bonfim dropped the ball his last fight. I tried to warn you guys about Benoit Saint-Denis, the god of war. But this is the real Bonfim brother. They signed both brothers. This is the one the UFC's actually after. Bonfim is 25 years old. He is tall. He is long. He's got a great build for this weight class, and he's nasty on the ground, Keg. This guy's got 11 wins by submission. He's got a tight squeeze on him, and that club and sub is always this close to coming through because he makes people panic wrestle. He pops them on the feet with his crisp, clean boxing. And as soon as they shoot, he grabs that neck time and time again. It just works so well for him. And we've seen a guy like Trevin Giles fall into exactly that situation before. Now, if he ends up on bottom, Michael Morales TKO'd him. He got knocked out by Dricus. my guy Dreykus is headed for a title shot very, very soon here, so can't hold that against him. He was able to outfight IQ Roman Dolidze, one of the bottom of the barrel IQ fighters in the UFC. I'm not overly impressed. He did get Bevon Lewis out of there. Bevon's cut. He lost the split decision to James Krause. Keg, I don't care what the record says. Krause won that fight. And it's the buddy of Trevin Giles, who is like his jiu-jitsu coach, was the judge that scored at 30-27 for him, sending the split the other direction. I'm not freaking kidding. That was the most biased judge in the history of MMA. And then he got tapped in round 3 by Zach Cummins, for God's sake, and in round 3 by Gerald Meerschaert. When this guy gets tired, when he gets beat up, he loses his confidence, and he's going to fold. Gabriel Bonfim is the other half of my parlay with Miss Miranda Maverick. I got minus 141, and I love it, Keg. I love that parlay. I think both those fighters win. I think both those fighters finish. I wouldn't mind looking at late sub props for Gabriel Bonfim, just because historically, that's what we've seen. He's got several round 2 and round 3 finishes on his record by sub, and that seems to be Trevin Giles' preferred method of losing. So I really don't mind the round 2, round 3 sub when those come out.
You ever see the movie Twins?
Yeah, long time ago, but yeah.
You know how Danny DeVito was just kind of like the leftover stuff, but like the baby they were trying to make was Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's like Gabriel Bonfim, I think, and his brother. You know what I mean? I think that this kid is a problem. He made Lazez look like a small child, look like he was in first grade. I like everything about this kid. I think the sky is the limit for this kid. I think his hand speed is insane. His body-head combinations are insane. His ability to stay in the pocket and avoid damage has been ridiculous. And I can't find bad things to say about him. On the ground, we know he's wicked. People barely touch the mat before this kid chokes the life out of them. So, I like everything about this kid. I think he's better than his brother, obviously. And if he continues to improve on this path, he could be a future UFC champion one day, I think. So, listen, I'm not as low on Trevin Giles as you are. You know, he has won 5 of the last 7. You know, albeit like you mentioned, some aren't that impressive, but in general, I don't hate him. He doesn't blow your mind with really anything that he does, but he's pretty well-rounded, I guess. He could throw his hands, could wrestle a bit. He's capable of grappling. He's been at this level now for 6 years. So, I don't think he's the easiest out by any means, but I think that there is only one reason that the offshore market hasn't dropped the rounds prop in this fight. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but his name is not Trevin Giles. You know what I mean? It's Gabriel Bonfim. And as much as I think that Trevin Giles is built for this situation, and by situation, I mean he's a pretty good test for a prospect ordinarily, right? Because at least you will know what you have with that prospect by the end of that fight. But I think that in this situation specifically, for this kid, he is the exception to that rule. And I think there's a reason he's a $3 favorite. So I'll be waiting to see what they drop his props at and plan there accordingly. But I'm probably going to be on him in some type of way. The kid's a stud, and he should make easy work of Trevin Giles.
Okay, all right. I love the endorsement. I'm happy to hear that. I went the square money line parlay way of things, and sometimes square is right, Keg. Sometimes square is sharp, and I'm hoping that's me this week. I'm hoping that's me. We'll see. But I like that parlay. I like it a whole bunch, you guys. Good luck. God bless you if you're betting Officer Giles. And I think the reason, Keg, that I have that hatred for Trevin Giles is, 2022 was the worst betting year I think any public figure has ever had. Like, people that have as bad of years as I did last year, they disappear. Those handles are no longer available on Twitter. Like, those people slink off into the shadows. I gotta own it. I decided not to run away. But the first thing I did, and I think it was like the second card of the year, was I put 3 units on Trevin Giles. And he got knocked out cold.
Good things happen. Good things happen to those that stay the course and continue to sling away, because you're up 50 units in 2023. So there you go.
Exactly. You know that meme that they've been putting out there where it's like the guy giving up, he's been like prospecting, and you can see like the diamonds are just like barely on the other side of the rocks. Like that's me. I didn't give up. I got to the diamonds. No, seriously though, don't like if you got a problem, go get it. All right, real quick, everybody, we got to pay some bills here. We're gonna shout out these sponsors first and foremost. As always, that's the wrong button, Keg. I'm having a hard time here. Why is it messing up my buttons? What is this? What is happening? Who messed up? Somebody here on Pub Sports Radio has messed with my buttons, and it wasn't me, and now I can't even bring up the damn screen that I was trying to share here. Look at this. How am I supposed to show you that? Why can't I full screen it? Somebody's pissing me off. Damn it. And now you're small. What is this shit? Okay. I have to like literally edit the layout here on the fly while drunk to try to get this thing to work. And I can't even add a media slot. Damn it. Son of a bitch. Like, this is not okay. Keg, what the? Oh my God. Okay. You guys, I don't know who messed with the settings. I'm angry at them. We're just gonna deal with this. There we go. All right. I figured it out. People need to leave my layouts alone here on Pub Sports Radio. We all share the routine and the buttons. No, Justin. It's not messed up because of the fireball shots. People edit these damn things for their own shows, between shows, and that's the problem. Okay. Pub Sports Radio. Shout them out. They're my number one sponsor, my true love. They've been with me forever. And as always, guys, we have got the free contest here weekly on pubsportsradio.com. Sign up is free. Entry is free. Winner gets $100. You also can see on Pub Sports Radio all the different shows that we put on. They've got the handicappers. You can see me right there. You can see the play that I tweeted out, my parlay. You can see all the different people that cover all the other sports on Pub Sports Radio. It's a great resource. Make sure you check it out and come compete for a free $100 weekly. Sign up, get your belts. Your boy's a brown belt here. I still got to get that black belt. I got to win one more contest to get that. Spectation Sports, regional scene MMA. We talked about it earlier. Very important, especially for these young up-and-coming contenders, guys that end up on Dana White's Contender Series. Spectation Sports has all these regional shows. WXC 91 coming up. Aries FC. Aries is one of the favorite places that we have that we get to tape. Use promo code DIEHARD when you sign up at Spectation Sports and watch some regional MMA if you need more fights in your life. Next up, you've got the Sharp app. These guys are awesome. You've got some serious cappers. They've got the coaches that are on crazy good runs right now. You've got the Sharp app report, which tells you where the sharps are betting, where the squares are betting. You tail the sharps, you fade the squares. And then, of course, they've got models and predictions and things of that nature all on the app. Check them out. The Discord is gold. You can use my link. Sign up. I will put that in the description of this video. And finally, bet openly. Keg, I'm glad you're here for this episode because you need to hear about this. Peer-to-peer betting. They don't give a shit what number you put in on this. You're not going to get limited because you're gambling with other people who want the other side of your action. You can see right here on the screen. I have got a bet on Miranda Maverick. I have laid the wood here at minus 298, but because it's peer-to-peer, it is 1% juice, which means we can offer better lines to everybody. You get plus 298 on Miranda Maverick. So it's a better line than what's out there with any sports book if you want the dog. It is funny. I had like 3 or 4 different people on Twitter tell me they wanted this action. Not a single one of the bastards has actually signed up and come and take it. So come get it. If you want these Clint bucks, I am putting these bets up for you to grab. And everybody, even if you don't end up signing up here at Bet Openly, it's a huge benefit to me. If you guys want to support me, please click that link. I just put it in the chat for you. Go check out the platform. You guys are going to love it if you even give it a try. But at the very least, do me a favor and click the link. It helps me out a lot. All right, folks. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for bearing with me through that. That was a lot harder to do on an empty stomach and 4 shots than I expected.
I was going to say, I have to check out that Bet Openly. I was on the other side of the betting window for a decade, and that's pretty cool that it allows everybody to basically be behind the betting window and set your own line. So that's pretty cool.
Keg, you know what? You didn't even mean to. And for anybody listening, we didn't talk about this beforehand, obviously. They sponsor my show. Keg doesn't have anything to do with them. I'm glad you said that, because as a guy who worked on the other side of the counter, that's literally the point. They're the Uber of betting. Like, they're making it easier for us to gamble with each other. The house takes 10%. Bet Openly is letting us bet with each other, and they're only taking 1%. So we all get better odds. Win, lose, or draw. Long term, you're saving money using this platform. It makes so much sense. It's a great tool.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it, actually, now that I realize it exists. Thank you.
Seriously. I've seen people. It's so funny. So real quick, sidebar here, storyline for you people. The Robert Whittaker Dricus Duplessis fight. There was this guy on Twitter who was talking shit to me. He's like, I'll bet you $1,000 right now on Rob Whittaker. And you know what I did? I went to my Bet Openly account and I put $100 on Dricus Duplessis. And I tweeted the guy and I said, you want to lay 1,000 on Rob Whittaker? I'm not that big of a high roller, but I'll put 100 on Dricus. And I gave him plus 325. Like, Dricus was plus 270 at that point. So we got incredible odds on that. And I was like, go right ahead. Like, you want to lay it on Whittaker? I will put my money where my mouth is. We'll go head to head. No more people on Twitter disappearing after making a bet and you can't PayPal and Venmo them.
Right.
Come to Bet Openly, make the fucking bet, and it acts exactly like a sports book. You've got your balance there, and it does, it pays you out as soon as it cashes. So it's funny though, that guy did not get my action because within seconds that bet on Dricus was gone. Somebody on Bet Openly had to have like a bot watching or something, because I saw a bet on there where they laid $3,000 on Robert Whittaker.
By the way, phenomenal call. I mean, listen, the fact is, nobody beat Bobby Knuckles in a decade that was not Israel Adesanya. That is a phenomenal call.
You ready for the next one, Keg? Dricus beats Izzy.
Really?
Dricus is taking the strap from Israel Adesanya. You heard it here. I'm going to bet it when they make that fight. Dricus will be your next champion.
All right. I like this energy. I like it.
You heard it here. And that's not 4 shots of fireball, Clint. Like, I've had that in the chamber ready to go until they make the fight.
Listen, we were doing the live show during that fight. And at the end of that fight, when Izzy went into the cage, it was so cringe that everybody on the show was like, you know what? We're all rooting for Duplessis to be because this is cringe. It's terrible. Yeah. All right. I like the balls, Clint. Let's go.
Trust them, Keg. You got to trust the balls. All right, everybody. Next fight, Derrick Lewis taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And speaking of trusting the balls, Keg, this line is old, folks. I made these on, before the show, obviously, last night. And Marcos Rogerio de Lima is now a minus 200 favorite. You can get Derrick Lewis out there for plus 170. Y'all must have fucking forgot.
Uh-oh.
The Black Beast is going to absolutely hammer this man. Keg, I've already bet Derrick Lewis. I got 1 unit plus 150, and this insane line move is probably going to force me to add more money on my guy, Derrick Lewis. I don't understand. So the only way this line makes sense, and folks, get with me here, the only way this line makes sense is if Derrick Lewis has gone full on Bob Sapp. Like, we're talking, he will give you a minute, 60 seconds of effort, and then he's phoning it in. That's the only way that this line makes sense. Because if Derrick Lewis comes out at all interested in this fight, he should be the favorite over Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Now, I know the records. We're going to talk all about the records. De Lima is 4-1 in his last 5, whereas Derrick Lewis is 1-4 in his last 5. Let's just compare the resumes for 2 seconds. Cyril Gane, Chris Daukaus, Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Pavlovich, and Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta, Andre Arlovsky, Blagoy Ivanov, Ben Rothwell, who's bare knuckle boxing these days, and Maurice Green, who is losing decisions in the PFL to steroid abusers. You cannot compare these resumes, Keg. They're not even close. This is the biggest name that Marcos Rogerio de Lima has ever faced in his entire run. The only two names that get even close is Alexander Romanov, where he got choked out in round 1 by a forearm choke, which frankly, folks, is something that should never happen to a guy who claims to have a BJJ black belt. Or maybe, Ben Rothwell probably is the other one, but like Ovince St. Preux, who Von Flue choked him, like those are the best fights he's ever had. And he's 1-2 in those fights. You've got Derrick Lewis, who's been fighting the biggest names at heavyweight for his entire run. And yes, he's run into literally the top 5 of the division in his last 5 fights. He is bigger than Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He hits harder than Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And de Lima might have a little bit of speed on him, Keg. But the one thing I keep hearing online over and over and over again is Lewis going to gas out. Lewis going to gas out. There's no way. We're at elevation. Lewis going to gas out. Bro, Marcos Rogerio de Lima's going to gas out. Did you not watch the Blagoy Ivanov fight? Did you guys not see the Blagoy Ivanov fight? He went gassed after 1 round, and Blagoy pushed him up against the fence, and he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. You've got Derrick Lewis, who is bigger than Blagoy, stronger than Blagoy, and the owner, operator, creator of the fuck you get up game, where he can bench press 400-pound men to stand back up if he wants to. I don't think you're going to get a guy gassing out more than Marcos Rogerio de Lima in this spot. All Derrick Lewis has to do is lean on him up against the cage if he wants to get a win. I know the leg kicks are a problem. That is true. But Derrick Lewis hits a hell of a lot harder than de Lima does. And like I mentioned before, he can just outmuscle this guy. And if you guys remember, go back 2-3 fights, the Tuivasa fight. Not only did Derrick Lewis have Tai Tuivasa on the ropes before that comeback elbow happened, he had that guy on skates. But in round 1, he took him down. In round 1, Derrick Lewis showed off an excellent improvement in his grappling and actually took Tai Tuivasa down in that fight and hit him with nukes on his way back to the feet. Now, Tai, damn near impossible to knock out, managed to survive it, get up, and return that giant elbow. De Lima ain't doing that. Folks, Derrick Lewis is going to take Marcos Rogerio de Lima down. He's going to smother this man against the cage. And if anybody's getting tired in this fight, it's the smaller man. It's Marcos. I've already got plus 150, Keg. I might add more as this line gets stupid. And don't be shocked if a Derrick Lewis by decision prop pops up on my official picks. Let me hear it.
First of all, I love your conviction, period. Like, no matter what side you're on, I love it. Now, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of not with you. So it's been a rough 20 months for Mr. My Balls is Hot, right? We know that. Okay. Now, like, even his last win against Chris Daukaus has aged about as well as like Rose did in Titanic. It's been real bad, bro. Real bad for Daukaus lately. So I think it's been tough sledding for the Black Beast, right? Now, in saying that, his schedule hasn't been very forgiving lately, right? He fought Thai, solid heavyweight. He fought the love of my life, Sergey Pavlovich, who committed first-degree murder. And then he was submitted by, a guy that continues to improve at the age of 28 in Sergey Spivak. So the UFC hasn't done Lewis any favors lately, but that's because he was a top 5 heavyweight when this slide started. So, he faced the up and coming animals, and that's probably the only reason that he's ranked right now inside the top 15, right? And also the reason that I think the money's been shaded right now 40 cents towards the Lima. Actually, now it might be even more since open. What is there to say about Lewis that most of this audience doesn't really know already, right? He's been a fixture in the division for a decade. We know that he's the definition of low volume if it was in the dictionary. We know
he's a
that
fan of Ronda Rousey.
Loves Ronda Rousey. We know that he's average, maybe slightly above average at stopping takedowns for a heavyweight. We know that he's got the touch of death in his hands if he can land one. And we know that at this point in his career, I kind of think, Clint, that he's there for the money, not the love. He has said on multiple occasions that winning is not his biggest priority, although he would like to win, right? Now, I think that we care more about, at times, a Derrick Lewis fight than he cares about it. But all that being said, you bring up a lot of good points. What scares me here is like the Lima. If you looked up one round of cardio in the dictionary, you would see the Lima's face, right? So I'm with you there. So
that's what I don't get. Everyone's talking about him like he's this cardio machine.
I'm totally with you. So the fact that it's at elevation is very scary if you want to back the Lima this week, right? Now, has he won 4 out of his last 5? Yes, he has. But that said, the level of competition has not been great, like you mentioned, right? I mean, he beat all those guys. He beat your dad, right? Mo Green, right? So, I think that the Lima is obviously, I think he's better on the ground than Derrick Lewis, but that's not my concern. What my concern are those calf kicks in the first round are going to be a big problem for Derrick Lewis. I think that those kicks to the body, the Lima, he can kick, man. I was watching tape today. He's got some really, really solid kicks. And Derrick Lewis sometimes gets into this space where he gets hurt and he's done. He just quits. He does not want to fight anymore. Now, if that happens in the first round, the Lima wins. But if Derrick Lewis makes him work in the first round, and round 2 starts, I do think that Derrick Lewis's win equity climbs as the minutes go on in this fight.
It skyrockets.
Yeah, past the first round. I'm totally with you. So I think how I would approach the fight, I went offshore, hit the Lima KO in round 1 is 3-1. I would probably sprinkle some on that, because I really do think he can end the fight with kicks in the first round, definitely. But at 3-1, you don't have to put that much money down to make a profit. And I think that I would be looking to live bet Derrick Lewis if this fight gets at around 1. That's probably how I'm going to approach the fight. Probably throw a little bit on the Lima KO in round 1 at 3-1. And then eventually hope to get on Lewis live for my real bet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, though. I'm with you.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad I'm good enough to hear that you're with me. Real quick, shout out Preston, one of the guys here at Pub Sports Radio, saying Nubian Bookstore took the Lima. That's all I need to know. Don't remember the last time that guy lost a bet. And that's totally fair. Our guy Marcus, shout out Marcus from the Nubian Bookstore. He's doing some excellent stuff. Posted this absolutely adorable picture of a little girl coming in his bookstore and purchasing a great book today. As a guy with a daughter, he always gets me right in the soft spot there with those kinds of things. So love the guy. He's a member of the community. And he's sharp as hell. Keg, this guy goes out there and throws 10K bets around, but he only does it about once every 3 cards. Like, he picks his spots very carefully. And here's the thing. I have so much respect for people like that if I was so convicted to go against somebody who bets that way, that tells you how I feel about the spot. I'm not just throwing darts randomly against somebody who drops $10,000 per bet on a guy like this. I get it. People that bet minus 120, you want the coin flip against old busted Derrick Lewis? Okay. I mean, I guess that's all right. but I cannot figure how De Lima is minus 200 in this spot. Does not make sense to me. So I'm going to be on an island. You guys are welcome to join me. I'll be sipping Mai Tais, martinis, and Fireball on Saturday. The Blackies to get right in this spot against a man who, quite frankly, Keg, I just don't think he's going to be scared of. And that's kind of part of this, right? Like Tuivasa, young, hungry power puncher. Lewis gave it his all and got elbowed to hell. Cyril Gane, a guy whose athleticism he cannot match. He got picked apart and kicked to the body, ran out of options. We all knew he was losing that fight before it ever happened. Sergey Pavlovich, the most vicious power puncher in the sport right now. And frankly, Derrick Lewis wasn't even done. He was still getting up in that fight. That was a spot where Sergey whiffed on several counter shots and the ref stopped it. You know, I think he saved Derrick some brain cells, but arguably a little early. And then Sergey, a guy who takes Derrick Lewis down on repeat and can do that for 50 straight minutes. Derrick gave up in that fight because, frankly, it was never going to be any different. If he couldn't defend the first takedown, he wasn't going to be able to defend the 20th takedown. So this is a different ballgame. Marcos is not going to chain grapple this guy. He can't. He doesn't have the gas tank to do that. Marcos is not going to outmove this guy like Cyril Gane does. He can't. He's not that kind of athlete. He's smaller. He's not going to overpower Derrick Lewis. I just don't see where Lewis is going to be afraid, and I think a light and free Derrick Lewis wins fights, and that's what happened when he fought Chris Daukaus.
So you're not concerned about those leg kicks in round one?
I am just a little bit, but that is my literal one hang-up, Keg. That's the one spot that I'm like, the leg kicks are a problem. But Tai Tuivasa went to the leg kicks. That bothered Derrick Lewis. He hit a takedown, he pinned him up against the fence, and he had that guy near dead. I don't think that Marcos Rogerio de Lima can take what Tai took from Derrick Lewis. So, yes, those leg kicks might force him into a gunfight situation, but I don't think de Lima is the level of Tai Tuivasa.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's see. Come get after it, folks. I might make this my second Bet Openly spot where I put some cash on the line on Bet Openly for people to come get it. But I do have to wait because if I lock it in now, that'd be cheating because everybody is still betting Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I think this line might actually get better. Apparently, I pulled the trigger just a tidbit too early here on Derrick Lewis, but we'll see what happens. Everybody, do me a favor. We got 220 live viewers. I'm joined by Jay, the Sports Keg, one of the best damn gamblers I've ever met in my life. Give the guy a follow. Make sure you tune into his live show on Sundays because his live betting of NASCAR, you guys can't find a better spot than that. And especially if you have a rough Friday and Saturday night, that's a great way to get that pile of cash back. Next up, we're talking about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Michel Pereira. And I love this fight. I mean, okay, I've had a tough time with Pereira just in general, Keg. He's a guy that I didn't believe. When he came to the UFC, I just absolutely did not believe. And I was right. He rattled off back-to-back losses where he did backflips on his way to the cage and gassed out halfway through the first round, lost to Tristan Connolly, and then he illegally kneed Diego Sanchez and got disqualified in that fight. I just don't think this guy's real. But what I think is insane is that he's got damn near 40 professional fights. He's 29. Show me the birth certificate, Keg. I don't believe that this man is 29 years old. He looks like a 35-year-old man. They had to have fudged the birth date on him. There's no way that he's not 30 years old.
I weigh 180 pounds too. Okay.
Exactly. He's massive, Keg. He's so big for this weight class. I have no idea how he cuts enough weight to make it down to 170. Now, Wonder Boy, we all know Wonder Boy at this point. He showed in his last fight against Kevin Holland that he still got it. Like, Buddy got rocked badly in the first round and came back and fought his ass off in that fight. I know there's the story about Kevin Holland's broken hand in that spot, but that didn't happen until late in the fight. Like, Wonder Boy was already working his way back into that and made that a 1-1 fight before the broken hand happened. That just spotlights the low fight IQ of Kevin Holland that he let this man get back up. The blueprint is so clear. It is crystal clear at this point. If you want to beat Wonder Boy, you take him down. Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, unless your name is Tyrone Woodley. Like, unless you literally back yourself up against the fence and win one exchange over the course of 25 minutes, like, that's the only way that you beat this man. So, and actually, it's funny. He's got one knockout loss on his entire record, Keg. Do you remember who that was to?
No.
Anthony Pettis.
Oh, you're talking about Wonder Boy. Yeah.
Wonder Boy.
Yeah. Yep.
Looking back, in hindsight, no beer
in a
goggles.
fight that he was destroying him. In a fight that he almost killed him in. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
I cashed a ticket on Anthony Pettis that night.
So did I.
And that may have been the worst bet I've ever made in my 100%. Life.
Yep. I'm right there with you.
You guys, I always tell you, good bets don't always win, and sometimes bad bets cash. This is the poster child for that exact situation. Anthony Pettis was getting beaten pillar to post and then does an off-the-cage Superman punch.
Yes.
And just lands perfectly on the button. That's the one MMA knockout loss that Wonder Boy has, and I cashed that fucking ticket. I'm proud and ashamed at the same time. Man, this fight comes down to one thing for me, and that's whether or not Michel Pereira grapples. Because if he wrestles, I think he wins running away. The problem is the elevation and the cardio. Pereira has struggled his entire career with cardio, and you see it even in the fights he's winning. So like the Nico Price fight. Price almost killed this guy in the third round. He was this close to finishing this guy in the third round because he had nothing left. The Santiago Ponzinibbio fight, he slowed down so badly in rounds 2 and 3 that it was a split decision, and he barely got out of there alive. Like, this guy's got all the tools. He's got all the pieces. He does hit like a truck, but he's scared to explode because he knows the cost is going to be something he pays for later in the fight, and it may cost him the whole fight. He's been very smart since he lost to Diego Sanchez. He's turned into a decision machine, Keg. This guy that's super exciting, does cartwheels and backflips, highlight reel KOs. He's a decisionator in the UFC because he knows his weakness is his cardio. I kind of think Wonder Boy gets him. I don't bet fighters that are over the age of 40, Keg. I just don't. It's not a thing that I do, especially when they've got a weakness, the grappling deficiency of Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson. But if Pereira grapples, I think he gasses before Wonder Boy does. And if Pereira strikes, I think Wonder Boy is a better striker. I have a hard time arguing for Michel Pereira in this spot, quite frankly. What do you think?
I couldn't agree with you more. The first thing that stood out to me was that Pereira was taking money, which was surprising to me, and I hope that that continues to happen. The second thing that stood out to me was that this might be the easiest fight that Wonder Boy has had since he beat Jake Ellenberger 8 years ago at Ultimate Fighter 21 finale. Now, since then, he fought the good version of Big Rig, I think, right? Rory McDonald, Tyron Woodley twice when he was way better, Darren Till, Anthony Pettis, which you can make the case that Pereira might be better now than Pettis was at that point. That's debatable. But Vicente Luque, Neil Burns, Bilal, and Kevin Holland. So, those were the first things that stood out to me. The third thing that stood out to me was Pereira's recent run. Has he looked better lately? Yes. In part because he is less wild and chaotic, like you said, than he was when he first entered the promotion, right? Now, let me ask you this. What did you think about the split, the decision win against Ponzi? Did you think he won that fight?
I didn't. I thought Ponzi did enough to get the nod.
I kind of think so, too. I'm with you. Listen, man, at the end of the day, I think that Wonder Boy is the side for a couple reasons. I think Pereira's best round is probably always going to be the first. Mm-hmm. And and while I'm with you, the beast cages himself because he's afraid that he's not going to have anything left at the end of the fight, which kind of turns him into a different fighter. And I agree with you. The grappling concern was the only concern that I had, because we saw what Gilbert Burns did to Wonder Boy, right? And I think that even if he gets him down in a round, as long as Wonder Boy makes him work, I think it will pay dividends later on in the fight. So, one of the best aspects of Wonder Boy striking is his refusal to put himself in harm's way. He controls the damage that he takes better than probably every single fighter on the roster, in part because of the riddle that is his footwork. And it's also the angles that he cuts, that he enters the pocket from, right? And I think that Pereira likes to dance around on the outside before coming forward. And I think that probably plays right into Thompson's hands. For me, the longer the fight goes, the bigger favorite that Thompson becomes, in my opinion. I will definitely be on Wonder Boy in some type of way in this fight, for sure. So I don't know if you're going to get there all the way there, because you're afraid of the grappling possibility. But I really believe even if he gets him down, he just has to make him work before that cardio starts to go, especially at elevation, which we said all night long. So yeah, I will have money on Wonder Boy, 100%. I hope that Pereira continues to take money. I will continue to wait until I see the buyback, and then I will hit the button.
I like that. Let's let this line crash as low as it's going to go before we jump in on Wonder Boy, because I completely agree. If he just does anything when he's on bottom, this guy's going to gas. And you give me rounds 2 and 3 for Wonder Boy, or shit, Keg, live bet. Like, if Pereira comes out and wrestles round 1, I will live bet Wonder Boy at plus odds to come back and win rounds 2 and 3 striking, because this guy can't keep the pace up, especially at elevation. I have absolutely tried to get right against Pereira, and he's gotten me every single time. I'm not about to give up now. I think this is the spot where I get my money back.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. One bet that I haven't made that I know I will make for sure is Wonder Boy, no doubt.
All right. I love it. Love to hear it. And I have to beg forgiveness at this point, Keg. Back about an hour ago, my guy PJ Rivera sent us $1.99 dono and said short notice elevation, never a good sign. PJ, I am so sorry. I had you queued up. I had this comment ready to go to shout you out and thank you for the donation that you've given us. And then Drunk Clint scrolled right on past. So I apologize. The fireball shots cost you the shout out. You're getting it now, my man. Thank you so much for supporting us and supporting the show. We definitely appreciate it. And I know that was meant for a different fight breakdown, but it seems very relevant here as well. I think the short notice, or not short notice, but I do think the cardio is going to be a concern. Our guy Pepe jumping in here saying Wonder Boy round 3 TKO. I would love that, Pepe. Not only does he get the win, but if he put a stamp on it and got a finish against a freaking monster like Pereira, a guy that I can't quite get right against, I would love that. That would absolutely make my day. Maybe we sprinkle. Maybe we just sprinkle a little bit. All right. The next fight coming up here is going to be Michael Chiesa and Kevin Holland. We talked about Kevin Holland just a minute ago, and these odds have not moved, folks. Minus 150 for Holland, plus 130 for Michael Chiesa. This is a really intriguing fight to me, Keg. So Chiesa has not fought since 2021. And I think that's the big question mark here. Former 155er, moving up to 170. That move has done him good. He filled out at 170. Chiesa is a big, big boy, and he has put a lot of muscle on his frame in his new weight class. I like him a whole lot better at 170 than I ever did at 155. He's got decent wrestling. He's got excellent BJJ. The problem is sometimes he leaves his neck out there. He tends to get a little excited when he shoots those takedowns, and he can be had. He got tapped out by, what's his name? Vicente Luque. He got caught in the Darce choke by Vicente Luque. Something that people forget about Kevin Holland is that he actually started as a grappler. He's a BJJ black belt. He's slicker on the ground than people give him credit for. He likes to strike. He likes to work with his hands, but he still has that submission game in his back pocket. Now, he killed Santiago Ponzinibbio with one hand. Like, he fought with a broken hand from the Wonderboy Thompson fight again, and it didn't matter. He still knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like, this guy is a special, special talent. The problem I have is trusting him because of that fight IQ, because he plays with his food, because he lets people hang around sometimes, because he let Stephen Wonderboy Thompson up off the mat and got TKO'd in round 4 because of it. Like, those make it really difficult to bet this guy. If I knew he was coming in with a great game plan, Holland minus 150 is an easy bet. But I also don't know that he can stop the takedowns yet. We've seen him make some slight improvements in that area, but I don't know that I can trust him against a pure grappler in this spot. There's question marks about Chiesa that's keeping me off him at this point. If I knew he was healthy, 100% ready to go, I think he had some surgery, and that's why he's been off for so long. So again, concerns. This might be an inside the distance spot, and believe it or not, Holland sub might be live here in this spot. With Holland, I've preached it before, Keg. If you bet him for a finish, you bet him inside the distance. Never pick KO, never pick sub, because it's however this guy wants it. However he's feeling on that night. Usually he likes to work with his hands, but he can do both. So inside the distance is the way to go if you're going to bet a finish prop on Kevin Holland. I kind of think Holland still has a higher ceiling at this point than Chiesa does, but if Chiesa comes correct and just grapple fucks this guy, we've seen that work before. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this breakdown. What do you got here?
Yeah, obviously we could safely assume that Kevin Holland is the better striker. We know that. I mean, just based off volume alone, the dude throws, ridiculous volume. And I agree with you. He is kind of a special talent at times, but man, he's really brain dead at times too. He just so often he does not make the right decisions that will benefit him in the cage, that it's a concern. I've been a big Michael Chiesa mark for a while. I love him, man. I love his ability to control a fight and take it wherever he wants it to go. But I think I haven't made a bet in this fight because I think that the side is Michael Chiesa. But what I'm worried about the most is what you just said. Do we know if he is 100% healthy? We don't. And that might be enough to keep me off of him. But I don't feel comfortable backing Kevin Holland, because if Michael Chiesa is right, I think that he will get hands on Kevin Holland. And if he gets hands on Holland, he will have the positional control advantage in the clinch against the cage. And I think that on the ground, he tends to in your opinion, do you think that Michael Chiesa, when he gets somebody down to the ground, does he prioritize getting the submission more than keeping top control? Or do you think that he prioritizes top control more than finishing the fight?
Usually I'd say that he prioritizes the top control, but we haven't seen him in that position for a long time. He did that well against Rafael dos Anjos, in a fight where he was the larger man in that spot. But in his last couple of fights, it hasn't gone all that well for him. He landed 6 takedowns on Rafael dos Anjos. It was just a size bully thing in that spot. Same thing with kind of the Neil Magny situation. He kind of exposed that hole in his game.
Right.
He does, I think, prioritize the top control. We've seen him win a couple of decisions. But like I said, if you hurt this guy or you get him off his game, he gives up subs. He's been tapped a bunch of times before, and for whatever reason, like my guy VB in the chat said, Darce seems to call his name sometimes.
Yeah, the more I think about this fight, the more I'm probably going to stay away from it. I thought that I would just take the plus money in this matchup and hope for the best. But I'm going to look at the props. Do you think Gun goes the full 15?
No, I don't. I think so. Here's the thing: if Chiesa wins, it goes 15. I think if Holland wins, it's inside the distance like 90% of the time. I was looking back, looking at these numbers here on Holland, and like, believe it or not, he defended a couple of takedowns. Let me get. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here. Let me get this up here.
Yeah, no worries.
So they threw him to the wolves with Hamzat, right? Like he was supposed to have done all that grappling practice after flirting with 185, comes back down, and they threw him to Hamzat. Chimaev went 2 for 5 on his takedowns. So like at 170, not at 150, I actually think there's a chance Holland is big enough and strong enough to stuff these takedowns. Tim Means went 2 of 5. Alex Oliveira went 2 of 3. So he's able to stop 1 or 2 takedowns because of the size advantage at 170. He just doesn't want to cut weight and likes to flirt with 185. If he stops 1 or 2 takedowns, I don't think Chiesa's got a thing for him on the feet, Keg, frankly.
Oh, I completely agree there. And we have seen Michael Chiesa kind of fall in love a little bit with his striking. Like there have been times where I've looked at him in a fight and be like, why are you not trying to get the fight what are you doing, bro? Stop throwing punches. Just get your hands on, like, his Neil Magny game plan was the game plan for Michael Chiesa. Get hands on the guy you're fighting and don't let go for the entire fight, right? But yeah, I think that if you bet the under, I kind of agree with you. If you bet the under in this fight, you're basically saying that Kevin Holland.
That's a bet on Holland.
Right. And you're probably at that point better off just taking Holland inside the distance at that point.
Honestly, Keg, it's funny. This is a spot where I leaned dog or pass. Like before, when I did my tape study, when I did the breakdowns, you and I talking it through and actually like putting the information out there, I think I have to bet Kevin Holland. Like, looking at this is a short price tag. We're trusting that Chiesa is coming back from a surgery correct all the way against an active fighter who just TKO'd a guy who was a contender with one hand. Like, he's got a clear weakness with the submission defense. Holland absolutely has subs. And on the feet, it's a clear advantage. Holland at the right weight class where we've seen Holland defend a couple takedowns. Chiesa's got a good, solid gig as a commentator these days. Like, are we sure this is a fight where he's fully invested? Man, I might have to bet Holland. I'll be
honest. But going into this show, I thought I was going to tell you that I'm betting Michael Chiesa. But the more we talk about the fight, I'm definitely. I think that I won't back him. At worst case, I'll pass. The more we talk it out. But I don't know. I do believe that he is levels above Kevin Holland as a grappler. Like, yeah, okay. Is Kevin Holland sneaky when it comes to being able to submit somebody? Yeah. But that is Michael Chiesa. It is all he does. You know what I mean? So I do think that if Chiesa is in that position and he can get Kevin Holland in those spots that he got Neil Magny in, I don't think Kevin Holland is going to be able to stop him from submitting him. Like, I do think he'll be able to get a submission off. But at the same time, there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to get Kevin Holland to the ground. And if he cannot get Kevin Holland to the ground, he is dead on his feet. No doubt. So, yeah, I don't know. Now I'm thinking I'm going to pass. Now you're thinking you're going to back Holland. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, man, that's the point of the show, right? Like, we get on here, we talk through these fights. I make 1 or 2 bets that I'm like super confident securing early on. The more we talk about this one, the ever so slight dog lean because of the selling edge on one side turns into maybe this is actually a cheap price on Holland. I might end up betting Holland by Saturday.
Okay.
All right. And real quick, Cannot forget, we've got to shout out our guy, Christopher Patrick. $50 donation right here. The dono train is rolling on Pub Sports Radio. Thank you so much, Christopher. He says, thank you for the information week after week. Keep finding that good sprinkle. Hashtag Mick Parkin. That is right. The 7-1 Parkin by decision, baby. Keg, you and I DM'd about this one. I tried to get you on Parkin by decision. You know all about that.
I bet him by KO or decision at plus 215. Yeah, I bet him. I bet him.
Hell yeah. That was the way to go. Love. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys a real sad story. So I write weekly articles for the Action Network. We are the prop squad. Everything has got to be plus 350 or higher for the prop squad. So you've got to find those long shot value parlays. We're kicking ass, Keg. Like as a crew, we've actually got a positive ROI finding these plus 300 or better spots on these UFC cards. I have just missed by a hair 3 weeks in a row. So like Myra Bueno Silva, KO, 11-1. She's got Holly rocked, sinks in a choke. Like it was right there. Just missed it. It's my week off. I hit Parkin 7-1. I don't get credit from the prop squad. I don't get my little green belt that they send me whenever I hit a pick. I'm like, but I got it. The cash makes it feel better. So thank you very much for the donation, Christopher. Thank you for the shout out. I'm glad you got in on that one. All right, Pub Sports Radio is I'm gonna get a phone call tonight with all these donos going off the hook. You guys are awesome. All right, we're breaking down the final 3 fights here for UFC 291, folks. We've got 250 live viewers. Everybody, you better smash that like button. I need to see like at least 150 likes on this pod because we're getting some serious gold here for you guys. Tony freaking Ferguson returns to the cage against Bobby King Green. Bobby's a massive favorite, Keg. He's even bigger now. He is minus 420 on the money line, plus 320 to come back on Tony Ferguson since I made these slides. And something that I've always said, Keg, every single Bobby Green fight that I've ever broken down is you do not lay chalk on Bobby Green. This man fights closely and competitively with everybody he's ever faced. He plays with his food. He's a Diaz, bro. He gets out there and he showboats. He plays to the crowd. He lets people know that he's not hurt. Instead of throwing back and scoring, he does not know how to play the game of MMA. A minus 420 favorite who is 2-5 in his last 7. You cannot lay it with Bobby Green in this spot, folks. I know Tony Ferguson looks like dust. I know he looked awful in his last fight against Nate Diaz, and he got finished in that spot. But he's coming back down to his home at 155, which is his actual, real, natural weight class. And quite frankly, Keg, the people that beat him before he went on sabbatical, Justin Gaethje, Charlie O, Beneil Dariush, like that's the creme de la creme in this weight class. He got sparked by Michael Chandler in the second round, but he won the first. Chandler.
He won the first round, no doubt.
He won the first round and nearly finished Michael Chandler in that first round. He looked terrible against Diaz, folks. I can't make excuses. He looked awful against Nate Diaz from start to finish.
I was on Tony.
Yeah. I thought he was going to run through Diaz, quite frankly. But wrong weight class, undersized, against the guy who just does not stop coming forward in Diaz. The script is a little bit different here. Bobby Green is kind of like a Diaz, bro, yes. But he's 3 inches shorter. He's got 4 inches less reach. Tony Ferguson is going to get that height and reach advantage back that he needed. And this guy's coming off getting stone cold KO'd flat by Drew Dober, Keg. Like, yes, he won versus Jared Gordon, had a clash of heads that ended that fight in a no contest, which was very unfortunate. But he didn't knock out Jared Gordon. This guy doesn't knock out anybody. He's got pillow fists, high volume, and he goes to split decision with anybody who's anything. His wins are over Guida, Venata, and Alan Patrick. That's who this guy beats. You guys might force me to one last ride with Tony Ferguson.
Listen, if you do it, I'll do it, because I've been thinking about it all week, bro. I've been thinking about it all week.
I'm this close, Keg. I'm this close. Like, I get it if you want to make Bobby Green a 2-1 favorite in this spot. That makes sense. That makes sense. And this is where the line matters. But 4-1? He's a 4-1 favorite? Bobby Green has never sniffed the jockstrap of the guys that Tony Ferguson has beaten in this weight class. I don't get it. What do you do here, Keg? What do you do?
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, Bobby Green gives me PTSD. Okay, why? 2 fights back, I was on the Drew Dober KO. He got it done. Great, loved it. Last fight, I say to myself, Jared Gordon's chin seems like it's cracking bad lately. You know what? Let me take Bobby Green KO in 2 or 3 at plus 750. Okay. It was the angle I thought in that fight, especially, like I said, when you consider that Gordon's chin is a problem, right? Now, you know what happened. The headbutt comes 20 seconds, Clint. 20 seconds I needed if he holds on. Now, I didn't get it. So unfortunately, like you were talking about earlier, the advantage that the books have is, like, you can pick the wrong side and lose way worse often than the flip side of that coin happening. So, okay, now moving on to this fight. I like Bobby Green in general. I always have, okay? Do I think that chin is going to crack worse than it has one day? Yeah, I do, but he's a grinder. He's a grinder. Now, as far as the fight goes, the first thing that stuck out to me was this is the easiest fight that Tony Ferguson has had probably since October of 2018, when he beat a pretty weathered version, I guess, by that point, of Anthony Pettis, right? So Tony Ferguson, one of my favorite fighters of all time. That lightweight streak was special, but, you know, I'm not an idiot. I realize that those days are long gone, but like I said, I'm tempted to bet him here. This is going to be 15 minutes on the feet. We know that. Tony in 2023, in my opinion, at least technique-wise, is still a better striker than Bobby Green. Now, you can make the argument that Ferguson won the first round in the Chandler fight, like we both think happened, for sure, right? Before he unfortunately got literally the mean KO of 2022 happened to Tony Ferguson, right? But, you know, what concerns me the most was how bad he looked in his next fight against Nate Diaz. Like I said, I was on Tony Ferguson big in that Nate Diaz fight. But, you know, that's the only reason why I'm scared now to take a shot on Ferguson, because that was not a normal performance. He did not look like Tony. He did not want to engage. Like, when have you ever known Tony Ferguson to not want to engage? Never. But he wanted no part of fighting that fight. So I don't know, Clint, man. You know, like, if his last fight was the Chandler fight, I'll tell you right now, I would have already bet Tony Ferguson in this fight. But the fact that last fight was against Diaz and how it took place, it kind of scared me off to just stay away. But if you say that you're going to bet him, I'll take the shot with you. I'll ride it, because I've been thinking about it for a week.
Keg, I am right there with you, because I was heavy and one of the only people on Tony going into that Chandler fight. I was in the stadium watching that fight. That was UFC Phoenix. I was here. I was there. And I was the only one in the building on Tony Ferguson. And I couldn't feel better after round one. Michael Chandler's family was 2 rows ahead of me. I could have spit on them after I cashed my ticket if I wanted to. Don't do that. That's rude. But I'm saying they were that close to me. And I thought I was going to cash a ticket and be the only one in the arena screaming in victory here because he was a 3-1 dog. I was with you on Nate because of that first round against Chandler. I was like, if that's how he comes out against Nate, he's winning against the ghost of Nate Diaz.
Yep. And
that's the question. Is he shot? If he's all the way done and gone coming into this fight, then yeah, Bobby Green probably just decisionates him in this spot. But Bobby's not the greatest wrestler of all time. I know Tony has a hard time with his takedown defense and he plays jiu-jitsu off his back. You're not submitting Bobby Green, but Tony could get back up underneath Bobby Green. If this is a striking matchup where Bobby Green is at a 5-inch reach disadvantage, suddenly this is close and it's competitive. And you're getting plus 300 on one guy and laying minus 420 on another guy who goes to decision and goes to split decision quite a lot. I'm tempted, man. I'm really tempted.
What do you think the split prop will be in this fight? 6-1, 5-1?
You know what? With a guy this big of a favorite, they usually give you some extra juice there. It's probably 6-1.
I don't hate that. Maybe that's
I don't hate that.
The fight.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Bobby Green tends to fight relatively close fights anyway. It's just his style, right? So like maybe that's the way it's like quasi getting on Tony. But then again, like if Tony just deads him and like it's a vintage throwback performance, you and I will be sick to our stomach if we don't bet that. But yeah, the split prop's not a bad way to look.
Yeah, I'm not sure Tony's got the KO power that he needs to take Bobby out that way. I mean, I know he's got a lot of KOs on his record, but it's been a long time. You remember like the Cerrone stoppage was like a cut stoppage. It wasn't like a clean knockout or anything like that, which those elbows, I mean, he still got those. That's always an option for him. I have a hard time believing he's going to sub Bobby Green at this stage. Green's only been subbed twice in his entire career. So it's probably a KO or decision at this point. The money line at plus 320 it's kind of calling me, Keg. Like I might get there, man. I might get there.
If you get there, let me know and I'll ride it with you.
All right. You know what? Fuck it. We're live on the show. Everybody's watching. Let's see if this number goes any higher. Keg, let's see if we can get plus 350. I don't know if it's going to get there, but if we get any more than this plus 320 that it's at right now, we ride.
All right. I'll take the shot. You let me know.
Let's go. Wait, I might be burning 2 units this week, folks. I'm up 50 for the year. I might burn a unit on Tony Ferguson. I might burn a unit on Derrick Lewis. But these buy low spots where the numbers are stupid, that's what we live for. If I go 1-1 on these spots, it's profit.
Yes, sir.
That's the way I see it. All right, folks. Co-main event. Jan Blachowicz taking on Alex Pereira in maybe the most interesting fight on the entire card. Keg, this one's going to... It might pit us against each other here. Alex is the plus 100 dog. Jan, the Polish power, legendary Polish power, minus 120. And we've seen Jan welcome 185ers to 205 several times before. And I'll give you a spoiler. It doesn't end well. This man moved up to 205 a long time ago from 185. And it was the right move for him. He belonged at 205. He fits at 205. He filled out very well. And nobody who's come up has really been able to get one over on him since. That 185 cut was a huge problem for Jan. The man can wrestle. He's got slick boxing. He's got that nasty left hook, which the legendary Polish power thing, I love the joke. It's a great meme. He doesn't have that kind of power. He really doesn't. Like Luke Rockhold and Corey Anderson are both incredibly chinny, and that's how he got those knockouts. But it's the IQ. The way he destroyed Dominic Reyes with the body kicks, that's what opened up that finish. Not his legendary power. It was the IQ that did that. He outstruck Israel Adesanya in that fight, and I know he was much bigger in that spot, but that's a similar storyline here. He still got the wrestling and grappling upside that he used against Israel Adesanya. Now, he did get caught by Glover, but Glover's the fucking man. Like, I think we can all agree to that. And I know the Rakic fight was a bit of a fluke injury. The leg thing was weird, but Jan was in that fight. He was never not in that fight, and he just went to a draw with Magomed Ankalaev. Yes, maybe Ankalaev should have gotten that decision win. He probably should have gotten the nod. But the fact that it got scored a draw at all even gives you an idea of how close it was. He was competitive with a guy who could have gold wrapped around his waist right now. Yes, Jan is older. He's 40 years old at this point, but it's not like Pereira is any kind of spring chicken. He just got knocked out at 36 years old and is moving up a weight class. Folks, I bet Israel Adesanya by knockout in the rematch. A lot of people told me I was insane for going against the scariest man in the UFC, Alex Pereira. But I found in the tape the right hand that Izzy landed on Alex Pereira over and over again. These guys have fought 3-4 times in a row. Izzy he landed the same right hand in every single fight, and he wobbled Pereira in every single fight. He just never sat down on it to the point that he finished him, and I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to land that same exact right hand because he'd done it every single time. Keg, I think Jan knows that. If I can see that in the tape, that it was the same weapon, the same hole in Pereira's game, Jan is such a high fight IQ fighter. I think he's going to find that. As long as Jan doesn't get starched by that left hand, I think he wins this fight. I think he can strike with Pereira. He's tough enough to take some shots. I know he can out-grapple Pereira. He may not submit him because Glover's got the guy's submission defense on point, but it takes a whole lot longer to gear up a wrestling takedown defense style game to be able to stop these types of takedowns. And I don't think he can do that for 15 minutes. I think Jan can get him to the floor. And frankly, if Jan looks at the footage, he'll find the right hand that Izzy was able to land. And I think he can land it with authority too. I think I'm on Jan in this fight. I haven't bet it yet, but that's the way I'm looking.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this fight for a while. I think that you're either in two camps. For the majority of the public, I think that there will be the people that back Jan because of the advantage that he has on the ground in terms of top positional control and at least positionally against the cage in the clinch. And I understand why they would bet on him for that reason. Chances are Alex Pereira, if he's on the ground, he's going to be on the ground probably for the duration of the round if the takedown is clean and it doesn't come in a scramble. So I understand that. There will also be the people that will back Alex Pereira because even every round starts on the feet, right? And there is no doubt who is more explosive on the feet. Like Alex Pereira was hitting harder than Jan when he weighed 185 pounds. And that's a fact. I mean, he hit the machines at the UFC Apex about as hard as Francis Ngannou. So like he'll probably, I think, if he does win, if I had to guess, and that's, if Blachowicz is dumb enough to stand with him on the feet for 15 minutes. And like in those two camps, there lies your decision. So like I said, I've gone back and forth on it, man. And I normally tend to back the guy that will be able to dictate where the fight takes place. Right. Mm-hmm. And that would be back in Jan, because if he wants to get the fight to the ground, chances are he's probably going to be able to get it there. But man, that hand, bro, is a different kind of beast. Like I fully, like, what? First of all, he's not a 185er. He walks around at 230. He's going to have to cut 20 pounds to get down to 205. He is enormous. So I don't think that you could look at what happened to Adesanya and think that that's going to happen here, because Izzy, what did he get on the scale at? At like 198 eating pizza? Like, isn't like that how it went down?
I think so. Yeah, he came in way under. He was still light.
Yeah, I mean, Pereira he's bigger than Jan. So I really do think that left hand is going to be a problem for Jan the entire fight. And I tend to think that if he gets hit with that, he's probably not going to react well to it. So I did take plus 115 on Alex Pereira a couple weeks ago. Do I feel great about it? No. But if he takes care of this fight, you will never see him be plus 115 at 205 again.
True.
So I took the shot that, that hand is going to win the day. But am I worried about Jan coming in with the same type of game plan that he had against Adesanya, taking him down and basically snuffing him out there? I am worried about it. But every round starts on the feet, Clint. So for that reason, I took the shot at Bahia at plus 115.
Okay. Keg, I cannot hate on that whatsoever. You did your job. You beat the line move. He's plus 100 now. So you've already beaten the market as far as what he's looking like right now. I don't go against you often. I hate disagreeing with you. And I also don't like betting on fighters that are 40 years or older. I might have to run with my guy Jan here. I've been a huge fan of his just in general. And he's kind of been a money train for me. I bet him basically every single fight in the last 2 years, except for the Glover Teixeira fight. I will ask you real quick, Keg, before we move on to the main event.
Yeah.
Would you play a total on this one? I kind of feel like this fight is violent. Like if Jan gets this guy to the ground, so Pereira gave up 2 takedowns to both Bruno Silva, who's not a great offensive wrestler, and Andreas Michailidis, who doesn't belong in the UFC. He gave up 2 takedowns to both of those guys. If Jan gets him down, I think he has a chance to finish, whether it's by sub or by ground and pound. I think he can get him out of there. And if this fight stays standing, quite obviously, both guys have plenty of finishing equity on the feet. What do you make of a total?
I don't hate the under. What is it, like 2.5 minus 180?
Yeah, I think they've got it chalked, but they have it set at 2.5 for some odd reason. I think it's a 3-round fight. I would just pay up for fight doesn't go. Personally.
Right. I'll tell you what. Your logic is sound, but my gut says that if it ends early, it's probably because Alex Pereira caught him. And that basically goes against everything that you like, the core of how you feel that this fight's going to go. You know what I mean? Like you're on the Jan side. So being on the Jan side, I kind of don't think taking under 2.5 is the right call, because my gut says if it's going to end, it's probably because Pereira ended the fight. But, can Jan end the fight by ground and pound or catch him in a sub? I guess it's possible. Do I expect it? Not really.
Okay. Fair enough. There you go, folks. That is the co-main event. We're about to break down the main event of UFC 291. And my guy, Dix Insider in the chat saying 106, Uno Mas Clint. He's trying to cheer me on for a shot. Guys. I got to go meet the parents after this. I'm drinking 4 shots of Fireball on an empty stomach. I'm already a little compromised. I didn't promise you another shot at 100. I'll make it up to you next week. No more shots for tonight. Otherwise, my mom will be more disappointed in me than she already is. So I'm gonna just pass on that one. We'll break down the main event for you here next. DP taking on Dustin Gaethje in the rematch of a lifetime. The BMF belt is on the line, and in this case, it actually makes sense. Keg, the BMF belt was an absolute joke when they gave it to a couple blown up lightweights that are moonlighting at 170 that were never going to win another fight in the UFC ever again. It was an absolute joke. Makes perfect sense in this spot. These guys are BMFs. I love it. You guys have heard me talk about rematches in the UFC time and time and time again. And the thing I always say is no 2 fights are ever alike. You run it back, and it just does not go the same way the first one does, ever, unless you're a wrestler against Dustin Poirier. In that case, you're going to find a rear naked choke in round 2 or 3. It just seems to be a thing. But what we've got with Dustin Gaethje is Gaethje 2.0. He's training with Trevor Whitman, and he's just gotten better and better and better. Like, ever since he finally decided he doesn't want to be the highlight reel guy, he wants to touch gold in his UFC career, he's turned into a machine. And frankly, okay, you're the biggest Rafael Fiziev guy I know.
I know.
And his destruction of Fiziev.
I couldn't believe it, man. I was shocked.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. He is not
absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he is not done. He is not done.
Justin Gaethje has somehow absorbed more punishment than anybody on the UFC roster in his short time here. His chin still has not broken. And if anything, he's gotten more defensively solid since all that happened. Yep. He's still managing to find new ways to improve. And Whitman is maybe the best coach in the game, bar none, period, at this point. So you got to think that if they still think they've got a crack, they probably do. And Khabib came out and said that Justin Gaethje is the hardest punch he's ever taken in his life. So, like, this guy's got unreal power. Now, I do not want to doubt Dustin Poirier. Technically, he's a better boxer. Technically, he's a better wrestler. But you run back that first fight, and the leg kicks of Gaethje were absolutely wrecking him. There was a moment where I thought Gaethje was actually going to stop Dustin with the leg kicks because his movement was compromised. He was having a real hard time getting around. Now, Dustin Poirier, very similar to Gaethje, he's taken so much damage. Every single fight he's in is a barn burner brawl. You look back at, the McGregor fights, the Dan Hooker fight. Like, this guy takes the Max Holloway fight. He just doesn't stop. He's built out of iron, and nothing ever seems to be able to do enough damage to get this guy out of there. It's been a long time since I've had this angle available to me, Keg. But the fact that the last fight went the way that it did, and everyone is just ready to pile on and say Dustin Poirier is a foregone conclusion that he will win this rematch because of how the last fight went, kind of makes me want to lean the other way. And I know he got Justin Gaethje out of there deep in that fight. It was in round 4 when he finally clipped him. I know we're at elevation, and that's going to play a part in the cardio of these guys. I kind of think this fight goes over. I think this is a clinch your butthole spot where you play the over 2.5.
That is a ballsy bet, my friend.
Everything, all the signs point to under, a violent finish. But I think both these guys play chess with each other. They're both going to make adjustments from the first fight. And I think it's going to take them time to get in there. They're going to respect each other's power. There's going to be a lot of footwork. And I think because of that, it's going to extend the fight. I think we go over 2.5. We go smaller over 3.5. We go a little bit smaller on the over 4.5 in Keg. I think we sprinkle fight goes the distance. I think this is going to be a split decision, and I'm calling the upset. Justin Gaethje by decision is the prediction for this fight.
That's the wildest thing. I love it. I mean, that is. You're not. First of all, the whole like every fight is not the same thing is so true because like everybody that was blowing Poirier for finishing that fight in the 4th, that fight could have easily got stopped in the 2nd when Gaethje had Poirier on skates. He had him hurt bad in that fight before Poirier eventually took over in that fight. So listen, man, I sent you a message earlier in the week and I was like, this is like trying to pick who's going to win between a fight between your two kids. Like it's such, for me, it was the hardest one to call for me. And what I said to myself is I'd rather bet on the one thing that we know will happen in this fight. And that is violence. Right. And you're kind of going the other way, which I did not see coming. I mean, everything you said is true. Poirier is way more technically sound. Gaethje has more power, and they're both elite. They can both wrestle. So I don't know who's going to win this fight. I think that like people that think like Dustin Poirier is a lock. I mean, that's crazy.
It was a coin flip the first time. It's a coin flip the second time.
Right. And I mean, think about how high everybody was on the prospect that Justin Gaethje just beat. So I mean, yeah, for me, I can't pick somebody in this fight. I think that they are both live to win the fight. But in terms of the total, man, maybe I wouldn't lean under the normal total. Maybe I would lean under an alternate total, because I do agree. The one thing that you said that I didn't think about that could definitely come true is them having a ton of respect for each other. And that first round is just a lot of nothing. A lot of them looking at each other, a lot of them slowly feeling each other out because they know that they have 5 rounds. So I do think that you bring up a good point there. But I think, betting on this fight to go 25 minutes, I think you should have your head examined. But but yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do in this fight right now. If you said you have to pick a guy to win the fight, I would lean towards Poirier, but not enough to bet him. That said, I can see myself betting the under in this fight before the weekend comes. I haven't bet anything in this fight right now. I did see that the knockout, I was interested to see offshore today what the knockout props would come out at Bet Online. And Poirier was plus 170 and Gaethje was plus 260. So, I mean, a Gaethje by knockout at almost 3-1 doesn't sound awful. So, maybe I can get involved depending on what the legal market starts to roll out in terms of props. But right now, I think that I'm probably going to be looking towards the under. But yeah, I can't pick a side. I'm going to lean Poirier, but I have no idea who's going to win this fight.
Okay. All right. So slight leans opposite directions. I think I'm going to go right on back to the clinch my butthole play of the day and go over the 2.5 here on this spot. Keg, these spots where I kind of flip the market and go over instead of under have been working out real well. I got plus 180 on the Jack Della over 1.5. That thing went 15. The way these guys fight, it could blow up in your face at any point in time because they fire with so much power. But I also think relying on the defensive skill and the toughness of them is something that we can take advantage of. Everyone's expecting this to be a 1-round fight. They know it's at elevation. They're training for it at elevation. They know it could be a war. They're training for a war. These guys are both getting long in the tooth. It's probably their last chance at a title. There's so much on the line. They have to win. That to me adds just that little element of hesitation.
That's fair.
That could be enough to get us over.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that was UFC 291, and I'm going to end it by shouting out my guy VB Picks and Bets. He says 2023 Clint is not to be played with, and the man has a point. That's the show. My guy Keg joining us here for a full-on 2-hour and 20-minute breakdown of UFC 291. We gave you all you could handle. Keg, my guy, I'm so happy we got a chance to do this. Thank you so much for sticking with me here. And now's the chance. If you've got shows, if you've got content, if you got stuff coming up, tell the people where they can follow you, where they can support you, because as I've said time and time again, they damn well need to.
Thank you, buddy. Now I expect to be put in the regular rotation of guests now that I finally made it here. Yeah, honestly, just go to the Sports Keg Twitter account, and you guys could find the link to the site, the link to the YouTube channel there in my profile. And that's it, man. I mean, we do 4 shows a week. Tuesday night, the guys do a baseball show. Friday night, I do a NASCAR podcast with my partner. Saturday and Sunday, we have the live betting show. And that's it. Started the live betting show 5 years ago to try to help people make money. Been betting full time for 13 years. And I was at Run Pure Sports for a while. I built the betting side of that platform with a friend of mine. I'm no longer there anymore. Went back to my YouTube channel. And yeah, the website, I only grade on 1 unit plays. I talk to you about that all the time. But yeah, in 2023, we're up 86 units on the site. Everything is fully tracked. If you go to Run Pure, 2 years there, fully tracked. And yeah, 2023, 86 units, and we had a 35 unit week. So things could be worse.
Could definitely be worse. Guys, I've mentioned it before. Keg is a friend, a mentor, a guy I look up to in the space. He worked across the counter, flipped to being a sports bettor. I'm a degenerate. This man literally puts his family's food on the table by sports betting. So, like, seriously, go give him a follow. This is the kind of guy that can help you put money in your pocket. Thank you all so much for joining the show. Tonight was amazing. The donations from you guys were incredible. Again, shout out to our donators. Thank you all so very, very much for supporting the show. Without you guys, there wouldn't be a Die Hard MMA podcast. So I'm nothing without you guys. I appreciate the love. Let's keep making money. This year's been super freaking fun. Setting a record for the podcast, cashing in would just be I want it. I want to set that high bar for myself. I want to make back every unit I lost last year for you guys. Let's keep enjoying the ride. Get out there, everybody. Kick some ass. Remember, when you have haters, the number one thing that you can do that will piss them off is not to lash back out. It's not to get offensive back at them. It's not to stoop to their level. It's to be happy. You move on, keeping your head forward. The one thing you can do that will fuck with them the most is to not let them get to you. Surround yourself with nice, kind people who will lift you up and do that for the people around you. You're going to be just fine. Kick some ass, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday for the Total Takedown, on Friday for the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show, and of course, Pub Sports Radio boys will be live Saturday as well for a betting companion for live betting on this awesome UFC card. Hit the like button if you haven't already. I love you guys. We'll see you next time. Let's roll.